How can we turn Earth into a Pandora-like world depicted in the movie Avatar, where people were in harmony with nature and the planet was extremely biologically abundant and sustainable? Turning Earth into a Pandora-like world, as depicted in Avatar, a planet teeming with vibrant, interconnected ecosystems where humans live in deep harmony with nature, would require transformative changes on ecological, social, technological, and spiritual levels. Here's a comprehensive outline of how we could approach such a vision. Restore and expand biodiversity. Rewilding and habitat restoration. Actively restore natural habitats and ecosystems, such as forests, wetlands, grasslands, and coral reefs, to revive native flora and fauna populations. This includes removing invasive species, reintroducing keystone species, and reconnecting fragmented habitats. Protect remaining wilderness, enforce strict protections on existing natural areas to prevent deforestation, mining, pollution, and other destructive activities. Create ecological corridors. Connect isolated ecosystems with green corridors that allow species migration and gene flow, increasing resilience to climate change and human impacts. Promote agroecology. Replace industrial monocultures with diverse, regenerative farming practices that support soil health, pollinators, and local wildlife. Transition to sustainable, regenerative economy. Circular economy. Move away from the take-make-waste linear model toward a circular system where materials are reused, recycled, and upcycled, minimizing waste and pollution. Renewable energy. Rapidly transition global energy systems from fossil fuels to clean, renewable sources such as solar, wind, geothermal, and advanced bioenergy that do not degrade ecosystems. Sustainable resource use. Harvest natural resources within regenerative limits, respecting planetary boundaries and prioritizing local, community-managed resources. Degrowth and sufficiency. Encourage cultural shifts away from consumerism towards sufficiency, emphasizing well-being, community, and quality of life over material accumulation. Adopt indigenous and ecocentric worldviews. Deep ecology and biocentrism. Foster ethical frameworks that recognize the intrinsic value of all living beings, not just humans, and emphasize interconnectedness and respect for nature. Learn from indigenous knowledge. Integrate indigenous stewardship practices that have sustainably managed ecosystems for millennia, emphasizing reciprocity, spirituality, and long-term thinking. Community-led conservation. Empower local communities to be custodians of their environments, giving them decision-making power and rights over natural resources. Design human settlements in harmony with nature. Eco-villages and regenerative architecture. Build living spaces that mimic natural ecosystems using sustainable materials, green roofs, and energy-efficient design. Biophilic cities. Integrate abundant green spaces, urban forests, waterways, and wildlife habitats into urban areas to reconnect people with nature. Low-impact infrastructure. Use transportation, water, and waste systems that minimize ecological footprints, such as electric public transit, water recycling, and zero-waste policies. Restore planetary health and climate stability. Climate mitigation and adaptation. Aggressively reduce greenhouse gas emissions and implement natural climate solutions like forest restoration, wetland conservation, and soil carbon sequestration. Geoecological engineering. Explore carefully controlled interventions that enhance planetary life support systems without causing unintended harm. Protect and restore oceans. Conserve marine biodiversity, rebuild fish stocks, and protect coral reefs as crucial regulators of climate and life support. Reimagine human culture, economy, and governance. Education for ecological literacy. Teach ecological principles, systems thinking, and empathy toward all life from early education onward. Participatory governance. Develop democratic, transparent governance systems that incorporate diverse voices, especially those of marginalized and indigenous communities. Spiritual and cultural renewal. Encourage cultural practices, arts, and spiritual traditions that reconnect humans to Earth and foster stewardship and gratitude. Utilize advanced technologies to support sustainability. Ecological monitoring and AI. Use satellite imaging, drones, and AI to monitor ecosystems and manage conservation efforts effectively. Green biotechnology. Develop bio-based materials, clean energy, and synthetic biology solutions that reduce human impact without compromising natural ecosystems. Restorative tech. Employ technologies that help restore degraded lands, purify air and water, and recycle nutrients at scale. The path to a Pandora-like Earth. Achieving a Pandora-like Earth involves healing our planet's ecosystems, transforming how humans live and govern themselves, and cultivating a profound respect for all life. It demands systemic changes that blend science, technology, culture, and ethics to create a world where people live as part of nature, not apart from it. Transforming Earth into a world like Pandora, as portrayed in the movie Avatar, where humans live in harmony with nature and the planet is exceptionally biologically abundant and sustainable, is a profound and multi-dimensional challenge. It involves deep changes across ecological, social, economic, cultural, and technological systems. Below is a comprehensive explanation of how this vision could be achieved, described in complete sentences. Restoring and expanding biodiversity. The foundation of a Pandora-like Earth is rich biodiversity, meaning a wide variety of plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms living in interconnected ecosystems. To achieve this, humans must actively restore damaged and destroyed habitats, such as forests, wetlands, and coral reefs, through large-scale reforestation, rewilding, and conservation projects. This restoration involves removing invasive species that threaten native biodiversity and reintroducing animals and plants that were lost. It is also crucial to protect the remaining wild areas with strong legal frameworks that prevent deforestation, mining, and pollution. Creating ecological corridors that connect isolated natural areas allows wildlife to migrate freely, maintaining genetic diversity and helping species adapt to climate change. In agriculture, shifting from monoculture farming to agroecological methods that promote diversity, soil health, and pollinators supports the overall ecosystem's balance. Transitioning to sustainable and regenerative economies. Transforming Earth into a sustainable planet requires a fundamental shift in how economies operate. Currently, many economies follow a linear model of production and consumption that extracts resources, produces goods, and creates waste. Instead, societies must adopt a circular economy model, where materials are reused, repaired, recycled, or upcycled, greatly reducing pollution and waste. Energy systems must transition away from fossil fuels to renewable sources such as solar, wind, geothermal, and advanced bioenergy, which do not emit greenhouse gases or harm ecosystems. Resource use must be managed within the planet's ecological limits, ensuring that extraction and consumption do not exceed what natural systems can regenerate. Cultural shifts are also necessary to move away from consumerism and growth at all cost mindsets toward values that emphasize sufficiency, well-being, and community, which support long-term sustainability. Embracing indigenous and ecocentric worldviews. A crucial aspect of living in harmony with nature, as seen on Pandora, is adopting worldviews that value all life forms intrinsically. Deep ecology and biocentrism promote the understanding that humans are part of a larger web of life and that all species deserve respect and protection. Indigenous peoples around the world have long practiced sustainable stewardship of their environments, often guided by spiritual and ethical relationships with the land. Their knowledge and traditions provide valuable lessons on living with nature rather than exploiting it. To build a harmonious future, it is essential to respect, protect, and integrate indigenous rights and wisdom into environmental governance. Empowering local communities to manage their resources fosters stewardship and ensures conservation efforts are culturally appropriate and effective. Designing human settlements that integrate with nature. On a Pandora-like Earth, human habitats do not destroy ecosystems but exist as part of them. This means building eco-villages, cities, and infrastructure using sustainable, non-toxic materials and regenerative design principles. Architecture would incorporate green roofs, vertical gardens, natural ventilation, and energy efficiency to reduce environmental footprints. Urban areas would include abundant parks, forests, rivers, and wildlife corridors, enabling people to connect regularly with nature. Transportation systems would rely on clean energy and prioritize walking, biking, and public transit to minimize pollution and habitat fragmentation. Waste and water systems would recycle nutrients and water continuously, preventing contamination of natural environments. Restoring planetary health and climate stability. Achieving a biologically abundant planet also depends on stabilizing the climate and protecting the Earth's life support systems. This requires urgent and deep reductions in greenhouse gas emissions through energy transition, reforestation, and soil carbon sequestration. Natural climate solutions, such as restoring wetlands and mangroves, provide carbon storage while supporting biodiversity. Ocean ecosystems must be protected and restored because they regulate climate and house vast biodiversity. In some cases, carefully researched and monitored geoecological engineering may be used to enhance planetary resilience without causing harm. These efforts would ensure a stable climate where ecosystems and human societies can thrive together. Reimagining human culture, economy, and governance to sustain this new way of living, human culture must evolve to value ecological literacy, empathy for all life, and long-term thinking. Education systems worldwide need to teach people about ecological interdependence, environmental stewardship, and sustainable practices from a young age. Governance systems must become more democratic, transparent, and participatory, involving diverse voices, especially indigenous peoples and marginalized communities, in decisions about natural resource management. This inclusive governance fosters justice and equitable access to resources, which is essential for social and ecological harmony. Additionally, spiritual and cultural renewal that celebrates nature and our connection to the earth supports motivation and collective action towards sustainability. Using advanced technologies to support regeneration while respecting natural limits, advanced technologies can help restore ecosystems and improve sustainability. Technologies such as satellite monitoring and artificial intelligence allow precise observation and management of natural areas. Green biotechnology can produce sustainable materials, biofuels, and agricultural products with minimal environmental impact. Restoration technologies, such as drones that plant trees or bioremediation techniques, can accelerate ecosystem recovery. However, these technologies must be applied thoughtfully to complement, not replace, natural processes and indigenous knowledge. Turning Earth into a Pandora-like world is an immense and holistic undertaking. It requires restoring biodiversity, radically changing economic and energy systems, embracing indigenous wisdom, redesigning human settlements to coexist with nature, stabilizing the climate, transforming culture and governance, and responsibly using technology. Such a transformation is possible only if humanity collectively commits to living as a part of nature, nurturing the planet rather than exploiting it, and prioritizing the health and diversity of all life. This vision invites us to reimagine our relationship with Earth and embrace a future where people and nature thrive together in vibrant abundance. How can we create a rainforest world that's extremely biologically abundant, self-regenerative, naturally harmonious and highly sustainable, where people live in tune with nature? Creating a rainforest world that is extraordinarily biologically abundant, self-regenerative, naturally harmonious, and highly sustainable, where people live in close harmony with nature, requires an integrated, multi-layered approach. This approach combines ecological restoration, sustainable human practices, cultural transformation, and supportive technologies. Here is a comprehensive explanation of how such a world can be created. Restoring and expanding rainforest ecosystems. To establish a thriving rainforest world, the first step is to restore degraded land and expand existing rainforest areas. This involves native species reforestation, planting a rich diversity of native trees, shrubs, and ground plants that reflect natural rainforest composition ensures habitat complexity and resilience. Natural succession support, allowing natural ecological processes like seed dispersal by animals and natural regeneration to progress alongside active restoration, promotes self-regeneration. Protecting seed sources, conserving old-growth forest patches serves as critical seed banks and biodiversity reservoirs. Reconnecting fragmented forests, creating wildlife corridors between isolated forest patches to allow species movement, gene flow, and ecosystem health. Embracing permaculture and agroforestry principles. Human communities living in and around the rainforest must adopt practices that enhance, rather than degrade, the environment. Agroforestry systems integrate trees, crops, and animals in polycultures that mimic natural forest layers, enhancing biodiversity and soil fertility while providing food and income. Permaculture design utilize ecological design principles to create productive, low-impact human settlements that recycle waste, conserve water, and use renewable energy. Non-timber forest products harvest fruits, nuts, medicinal plants, and fibers sustainably without clearing forests. Soil regeneration use composting, cover cropping, and biochar to restore soil health and carbon storage. Living in cultural harmony with nature. A rainforest world where people live in tune with nature requires cultural values that prioritize ecological balance and respect, indigenous knowledge integration. Recognize and incorporate the traditional ecological knowledge of indigenous peoples who have sustainably managed rainforests for generations. Community stewardship. Empower local communities to manage forest resources with strong land rights and governance systems. Spiritual and educational practices. Foster a worldview that sees humans as part of the ecosystem, nurturing empathy and care through education and cultural traditions. Sustainable livelihoods. Develop economies based on sustainable forest products, ecotourism, and regenerative agriculture, reducing pressures for destructive land use. Ensuring ecological and climatic stability. Rainforests depend on specific climatic conditions and water cycles, which must be protected. Water cycle restoration. Maintain and restore watersheds and wetlands that support the rainforest's moisture and nutrient cycles. Climate mitigation. Reduce greenhouse gas emissions globally to prevent climate disruptions that threaten rainforest health. Fire management. Develop strategies to prevent and control fires, which are destructive in many tropical forests. Biodiversity monitoring. Use technology and local knowledge to track ecosystem health and intervene when necessary. Designing sustainable infrastructure and energy. Use human presence must be supported by infrastructure that is in harmony with the rainforest environment. Low-impact housing. Build homes and community buildings using locally sourced, renewable, and biodegradable materials, designed to minimize environmental disturbance. Renewable energy. Use solar, microhydro, and bioenergy to meet energy needs without pollution or habitat destruction. Waste management. Implement closed-loop systems that recycle organic and inorganic waste into resources like compost and biogas. Transportation. Promote non-motorized or low-impact transport options such as walking, cycling, and electric vehicles designed for sensitive ecosystems. Promoting education, research, and global cooperation. Creating and sustaining such a rainforest world requires ongoing learning and collaboration. Environmental education. Teach ecological principles, rainforest biology, and sustainable living practices within communities and schools. Scientific research. Support studies on rainforest ecology, restoration methods, and climate interactions to refine conservation strategies. Global partnerships. Foster international cooperation to protect rainforest regions from deforestation, illegal logging, and climate threats. Funding and incentives. Develop mechanisms such as payments for ecosystem services, carbon credits, and sustainable product certifications to finance rainforest conservation and sustainable livelihoods. In essence, creating a biologically abundant, self-regenerative, and harmonious rainforest world where humans live in balance with nature requires active restoration of native rainforest ecosystems, adoption of sustainable agroforestry and permaculture by local communities, deep cultural respect for the rainforest rooted in indigenous wisdom and ecological ethics, protection of climate and water systems that sustain the rainforest, low-impact infrastructure and renewable energy use, continuous education, research, and cooperative global efforts. Together, these steps build a resilient, vibrant rainforest world that nurtures both nature and human well-being, truly embodying harmony and sustainability. Creating a rainforest world that is extraordinarily biologically abundant, self-regenerative, naturally harmonious, and highly sustainable, where people live in tune with nature, is a complex but achievable goal. It involves a combination of ecological restoration, sustainable human practices, cultural transformation, and supportive technologies. Here is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences. Restoring and expanding rainforest ecosystems. The first essential step in creating such a rainforest world is to restore degraded land and expand existing rainforests. This process begins with planting a diverse array of native trees, shrubs, and ground plants that mirror the natural composition of tropical forests. By focusing on native species, the restored areas can support a wide variety of wildlife and maintain ecological balance. It is important to allow natural processes, such as seed dispersal by animals and natural forest succession, to work alongside active planting efforts, which helps the forest regenerate itself over time. Protecting old-growth forest patches is also critical, as these areas serve as reservoirs of biodiversity and sources of seeds that can recolonize surrounding landscapes. Additionally, reconnecting fragmented forest patches by creating ecological corridors enables animals to move freely between habitats, ensuring gene flow and strengthening the resilience of ecosystems. Embracing permaculture and agroforestry principles for humans to live sustainably within the rainforest, they must adopt agricultural and living practices that enhance the forest rather than destroy it. Agroforestry, which integrates trees, crops, and livestock and diverse polyculture systems, mimics the structure and function of natural forests. This approach supports biodiversity, improves soil fertility, and provides food and income for local people. Permaculture principles, which involve designing human habitats and agricultural systems that work with nature, help create communities that recycle waste, conserve water, and use renewable energy. Sustainable harvesting of non-timber forest products such as fruits, nuts, medicinal plants, and fibers allows people to benefit from the forest without damaging it. Practices that regenerate soil health, including composting, cover cropping, and the use of biochar, are vital for maintaining the productivity and carbon storage capacity of rainforest soils. Living in cultural harmony with nature. A rainforest world where humans live in harmony with nature requires cultural values and knowledge systems that emphasize ecological balance and respect for all life. Indigenous peoples have developed sustainable stewardship methods over thousands of years, often based on spiritual connections to the land and deep ecological understanding. Integrating this indigenous knowledge into conservation and land management strategies is essential. Local communities must be empowered through secure land rights and governance systems that allow them to be effective stewards of their environments. Educational programs and cultural traditions should foster a worldview that recognizes humans as an integral part of the ecosystem, nurturing empathy, responsibility, and care for nature. Supporting sustainable livelihoods based on forest-friendly activities, such as harvesting non-timber products and ecotourism, helps reduce pressures on the forest and improve local well-being. Ensuring ecological and climatic stability. Rainforests depend on stable climatic conditions and intact water cycles to thrive. Protecting and restoring watersheds and wetlands maintains the moisture and nutrient cycles essential to rainforest health. Globally, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is critical to prevent climate change impacts that could disrupt rainfall patterns and temperature regimes necessary for rainforest ecosystems. Fire management strategies are also important, as many tropical forests are vulnerable to destructive wildfires, especially when degraded or during droughts. Ongoing monitoring of biodiversity and ecosystem health using scientific tools and local knowledge enables timely interventions to address emerging threats or imbalances. Designing sustainable infrastructure and energy use. Human settlements within or near rainforests must minimize their environmental footprint. This can be achieved by constructing buildings from locally sourced, renewable, and biodegradable materials that blend with the natural surroundings. Energy needs should be met through renewable sources such as solar power, micro-hydropower, or sustainably produced bioenergy to avoid pollution and habitat destruction. Waste management systems must be closed-loop, recycling organic and inorganic materials back into useful resources like compost and biogas, thus preventing contamination of soil and waterways. Transportation within these communities should prioritize low-impact options such as walking, cycling, or electric vehicles designed to operate with minimal disturbance to sensitive ecosystems. Promoting education, research, and global cooperation. Sustaining a rainforest world requires continuous education, scientific research, and cooperation at multiple levels. Environmental education programs help communities understand ecological principles, the importance of rainforest conservation, and sustainable living practices. Scientific research advances knowledge of rainforest ecology, restoration techniques, and climate interactions, allowing for adaptive management. International and regional partnerships strengthen efforts to combat deforestation, illegal logging, and climate change impacts. Economic incentives such as payments for ecosystem services, carbon credits, and certification for sustainably produced forest products provide funding for conservation and encourage responsible behavior. Creating a rainforest world that is biologically abundant, self-regenerative, harmonious, and sustainable, where people live in tune with nature, requires an integrated approach. It involves restoring and protecting native ecosystems, adopting sustainable land use practices, embracing indigenous knowledge and cultural respect, maintaining climatic and ecological stability, designing environmentally sensitive human infrastructure, and fostering education and cooperation. By combining these elements, humanity can build resilient rainforest ecosystems that support both rich biodiversity and thriving human communities in balance with the natural world. How can we make this world fully vegan? Making a world that is biologically abundant, self-regenerative, naturally harmonious, and highly sustainable, especially one modeled on rainforest ecosystems where people live in tune with nature. Fully vegan involves a comprehensive transformation of human diets, agriculture, culture, and economies. Here's a detailed explanation in complete sentences of how such a world could be created with veganism at its core. Transitioning to plant-based diets globally. The foundation of a fully vegan world is shifting all human diets to rely exclusively on plants and plant-derived foods. This means eliminating the consumption of all animal products including meat, dairy, eggs, and other animal-derived substances. A plant-based diet reduces the environmental impact associated with animal agriculture, such as deforestation, methane emissions, excessive water use, and soil degradation. It also allows the land to be used more efficiently, growing diverse crops that support soil health and biodiversity instead of feeding livestock. Education and public awareness campaigns are essential to encourage widespread adoption of vegan diets by highlighting health benefits, environmental sustainability, and ethical considerations. Redesigning agriculture around regenerative plant production to support a vegan world. Agricultural systems must be redesigned to focus entirely on regenerative plant cultivation. This involves using agroecological and permaculture principles to create diverse polycultures, agroforestry systems, and regenerative farming methods that build healthy soils, increase biodiversity, and restore ecosystems. Crop choices should prioritize nutrient-dense, locally adapted plants that feed people directly rather than growing feed for animals. By eliminating animal farming, vast areas of land can be rewilded or converted into productive, multi-layered food forests that also serve as carbon sinks and wildlife habitats. Water use efficiency and natural pest control methods will reduce the need for chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Protecting and restoring natural ecosystems. Animal agriculture is a major driver of habitat destruction and biodiversity loss. A fully vegan world would see the cessation of livestock grazing, factory farming, and related industries, freeing billions of hectares for ecological restoration. Former pasture lands, feed crop fields, and deforested areas could be restored to native rainforests, wetlands, and other natural ecosystems, supporting a resurgence of wildlife and ecosystem services. This restoration enhances the planet's ability to sequester carbon, regulate climate, and maintain hydrological cycles, contributing to the stability and resilience of the rainforest world. Developing plant-based economies and livelihoods. Communities that depend on animal agriculture must transition to economies based on plant cultivation and sustainable forest management. This involves supporting farmers, indigenous peoples, and rural workers to shift to agroforestry, permaculture, and the sustainable harvesting of non-timber forest products such as fruits, nuts, seeds, medicinal plants, and fibers. New industries around plant-based foods, materials, textiles, and medicines can create jobs and economic opportunities while minimizing environmental footprints. Governments and organizations should provide training, financial incentives, and market development assistance to facilitate this transition. Encouraging cultural and ethical shifts toward compassion. A vegan rainforest world requires deep cultural shifts that value compassion for all sentient beings and recognize the ethical imperative to avoid harming animals. Education systems should include curricula that teach empathy, animal rights, and the environmental consequences of dietary choices. Cultural narratives, traditions, and spiritual practices can be nurtured or reinterpreted to honor plant-based living and interconnectedness with all life. Promoting veganism as a positive, life-affirming lifestyle rather than a restrictive diet encourages broad acceptance and long-term commitment. Leveraging technology and innovation. Technological advances can support the creation of a fully vegan world by improving plant-based food production, developing alternatives to animal-derived products, and monitoring ecological health. Innovations in plant breeding, vertical farming, aquaponics, and soil restoration enhance yields and resource efficiency. Plant-based proteins, dairy substitutes, and other vegan products can become more affordable, nutritious, and appealing through food technology. Additionally, digital tools can help track ecosystem restoration progress, manage land use, and optimize supply chains for sustainable plant foods. Enacting supportive policies and global cooperation. Governments must implement policies that promote veganism as a pathway to sustainability. This includes subsidizing plant-based agriculture, banning harmful animal agriculture practices, enforcing environmental protections, and incentivizing ecosystem restoration. International cooperation is needed to share knowledge, fund global reforestation, and support just transitions for communities dependent on animal farming. Public health, environmental, and economic policies should align to accelerate the shift toward a vegan world. Making a biologically abundant, self-regenerative, and harmonious rainforest world fully vegan requires a systemic transformation. It involves globally adopting plant-based diets, redesigning agriculture for regenerative plant production, restoring natural ecosystems free from animal farming, transitioning economies and livelihoods toward plant-based models, fostering cultural and ethical shifts in favor of compassion, utilizing technological innovations, and enacting supportive policies and cooperation. This comprehensive approach ensures that human societies live sustainably within planetary boundaries while respecting all life. What energy systems can be developed or used to build this ecologically rich, self-regenerative, vegan world? Building an ecologically rich, self-regenerative, and fully vegan world requires energy systems that are not only clean and renewable, but also harmonious with natural ecosystems, scalable, and sustainable long-term. Here is a comprehensive explanation of the energy systems best suited for such a world, described in complete sentences. Solar energy. Solar power is one of the most abundant and clean energy sources available. It harnesses sunlight using photovoltaic, PV panels or solar thermal collectors to generate electricity and heat without emitting greenhouse gases or polluting the environment. Solar energy systems can be deployed at various scales, from small rooftop panels on homes to large solar farms, making them adaptable for urban and rural communities alike. Additionally, solar installations can be designed to minimize land disruption by using rooftops, degraded lands, or integrating solar panels with agriculture, agrivoltaics, allowing plant growth underneath. Wind energy. Wind power captures kinetic energy from moving air using turbines to generate electricity. Like solar, wind energy is renewable, clean, and produces no direct emissions. Wind farms can be located onshore or offshore, with offshore installations benefiting from stronger and more consistent winds. To maintain harmony with ecosystems, careful site selection is crucial to avoid disrupting bird migration routes or sensitive habitats. Small-scale wind turbines can also support decentralized energy production in remote or rainforest communities. Hydropower, small-scale and micro-hydropower. Hydropower generates energy by harnessing flowing or falling water. While large dams often have significant ecological impacts, small-scale or micro-hydropower systems can provide renewable electricity with minimal environmental disturbance. These systems can be integrated into existing streams or rivers without large reservoirs, supporting local communities with clean energy while preserving aquatic ecosystems and maintaining natural water flows essential for rainforest health. Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy exploits heat from beneath the Earth's surface to produce electricity or direct heating. It is a reliable and low-emission energy source that can provide continuous baseload power regardless of weather conditions. In regions where geothermal resources are accessible, this energy system can support rainforest communities sustainably. The environmental footprint is relatively small, especially when managed with care to avoid overextraction of geothermal fluids. Bioenergy from plant-based residues, biomass and biogas. In a fully vegan, regenerative world, bioenergy can be sustainably produced from plant-based residues, such as agricultural waste, forestry byproducts, or dedicated energy crops grown without harming ecosystems. Technologies like anaerobic digestion convert organic material into biogas, which can be used for heating, electricity, or cooking. This approach closes nutrient loops by returning biochar or digestate to the soil, improving fertility and carbon sequestration. Importantly, bioenergy production must avoid deforestation or competition with food production. Ocean energy. Ocean-based renewable energy technologies harness tidal, wave, and thermal gradients. While still emerging, these technologies offer vast potential to generate clean energy without greenhouse gas emissions. Carefully designed ocean energy systems can coexist with marine ecosystems, supporting coastal communities that depend on ocean resources. Maintaining ecological integrity requires thorough environmental assessments before deployment. Energy efficiency and smart grids beyond generation. Energy systems in a sustainable rainforest world must prioritize efficiency and smart management. Energy-efficient appliances, buildings, and industrial processes reduce overall demand, minimizing environmental impacts. Smart grids use digital technologies to optimize energy distribution, balance supply and demand, and integrate diverse renewable sources seamlessly. Decentralized energy systems empower communities to manage their own renewable resources, increasing resilience and reducing transmission losses. Integrating energy systems with ecological design. Energy infrastructure should be integrated thoughtfully into the environment. For example, solar panels can be combined with agroforestry, agrivoltaics, to produce food and energy on the same land, enhancing biodiversity and productivity. Wind turbines can be sited to avoid wildlife corridors. Small hydropower systems can coexist with natural waterways supporting fish migration. Such integrative designs ensure that energy production supports the broader goal of ecological abundance and regeneration. The energy systems best suited for building an ecologically rich, self-regenerative, and fully vegan world are renewable, clean, and designed to harmonize with natural ecosystems. Solar and wind energy offer scalable and low-impact electricity generation. Small-scale hydropower and geothermal provide reliable renewable power in suitable locations. Bioenergy from plant residues can recycle nutrients while supplying energy. Emerging ocean energy technologies hold future promise. Coupled with energy efficiency, smart grids, and ecological design principles, these systems enable a sustainable energy future that supports biodiversity, ecosystem health, and human well-being. What energy systems could be developed for a world similar to Pandora in Avatar? Creating energy systems for a world like Pandora from Avatar, a planet where life is deeply interconnected, ecosystems are incredibly vibrant, and humans live in complete harmony with nature, requires imagining technologies and energy sources that are clean, sustainable, seamlessly integrated with the environment, and often inspired by natural processes themselves. Here's a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences. Biointegrated energy systems on Pandora. Energy could come from biological processes integrated directly with the ecosystem. This might include living bioreactors, organisms engineered or naturally evolved to produce energy-rich compounds, like biofuels or electrical energy, through photosynthesis or other metabolic processes. These bioreactors would be non-invasive and part of the natural web, providing energy without disrupting ecosystems. Symbiotic energy harvesting. Just as Pandora's flora and fauna form symbiotic relationships, energy systems could be based on mutualistic interactions, such as microbes that generate electricity from organic waste or plants that produce usable bioelectricity. Ambient and low-impact renewable energy on Pandora would likely harness the planet's natural ambient forces without damaging ecosystems. Solar energy via photosynthesis, instead of mechanical panels. Energy could be harvested directly from plants or algae optimized for maximum photosynthetic efficiency, converting sunlight into usable energy forms with minimal ecological disruption. Kinetic energy from natural movements. The constant motion of wind, water, and possibly even fauna movements could be gently captured using biomimetic devices, structures inspired by natural forms that blend into the environment without harming it. Piezoelectric energy from living structures. Energy could be harvested from the mechanical stresses and movements of living trees, vines, or fungal networks, converting their natural motions into electricity. Neural and bioelectric networks. Pandora's interconnected life forms suggest a world where energy and information flow through living networks. Mycelium-based bioelectricity. Networks of fungal mycelium might be used to transmit electrical signals and energy, acting as living wiring that powers small devices or supports communal energy sharing. Bioluminescent organisms as light sources. Instead of artificial lighting, bioluminescent plants and animals could provide illumination powered by natural chemical processes, reducing energy needs. Geothermal and planetary energy sources. If Pandora is geologically active, natural internal heat could provide steady and clean energy. Low-impact geothermal systems, harnessing the planet's internal heat via small-scale, carefully managed geothermal plants could supply energy without large-scale landscape disruption. Magnetic or gravitational energy. Pandora's unique planetary characteristics might allow for harvesting magnetic fields or gravitational forces, potentially powering technologies through naturally occurring phenomena in the environment. Energy from water and atmosphere. Water and atmospheric systems on Pandora could be tapped gently. Micro hydropower in streams and waterfalls, small-scale hydropower systems embedded in natural waterways, could generate energy without blocking animal migration or altering water cycles. Atmospheric energy harvesting. Technologies inspired by natural phenomena such as lightning or static electricity could capture atmospheric energy in safe, renewable ways. Human-scale sustainable technologies. Humans living on Pandora would use energy in ways that maintain harmony with the environment. Biodegradable and energy-efficient devices. All tools and machines would be made from natural, biodegradable materials and designed for minimal energy use. Energy sharing and storage via living organisms. Energy could be stored in biological forms, like plants engineered to store electrical energy or chemical fuels that regenerate naturally. Minimalist energy consumption. Societies would likely emphasize low energy consumption, relying on natural rhythms and local energy sources rather than large, centralized grids. Energy systems on a Pandora-like world would be fundamentally different from industrial human technologies. They would be biointegrated, renewable, and designed to coexist with the planet's living networks. Energy would be harvested from sunlight, movement, geothermal heat, atmospheric phenomena, and biological processes in ways that preserve and enhance the vibrant ecosystems. These systems would be decentralized, low impact, and based on principles of symbiosis and sustainability, ensuring humans live in true harmony with their environment. To develop energy systems suitable for a world like Pandora from the movie Avatar, where ecosystems are immensely vibrant, interconnected, and sacred, and where humans or intelligent beings live in complete harmony with nature, we must design energy solutions that are not only clean and renewable but also biologically integrated, decentralized, and non-disruptive to ecological balance. The energy systems of such a world must function like organs within a living body, quiet, efficient, cooperative, and regenerative. Below is a comprehensive explanation, described in complete sentences. Biointegrated energy systems. In a Pandora-like world, energy would be generated using biological processes that are woven into the natural environment. One way this could be done is through living bioreactors, engineered or naturally evolved organisms that produce energy-rich substances like biofuels, hydrogen, or electricity as a byproduct of photosynthesis or metabolism. These organisms would function as part of ecosystems, not isolated machines, and would not require destructive harvesting or synthetic chemicals. Another form of biointegrated energy could come from symbiotic energy systems, where energy is produced through mutually beneficial relationships among species. For example, certain microbes could live in the roots of trees or the gut of animals and produce small amounts of electricity or chemical energy, which is shared with the host or ecosystem. This kind of energy production reflects the biological interconnectedness of Pandora, where life forms are bonded in networks of cooperation and mutual support. Ambient and low-impact renewable energy. Pandora-like energy systems would draw from naturally occurring ambient forces without altering or disrupting the environment. One of the most significant energy sources would be solar energy. However, instead of conventional solar panels, which can disrupt landscapes, energy would be harvested through advanced photosynthetic systems or solar enhanced plants and algae that store or convert sunlight into electricity or usable chemical fuels. These living solar collectors would blend into the ecosystem and function without requiring artificial inputs. Kinetic energy could be harvested gently from wind, water currents, or even the movement of animals and trees. Devices that mimic natural forms, such as the flutter of leaves or the motion of sea creatures, could be used to collect energy without harming wildlife or landscapes. These biomimetic energy harvesters would be small-scale, distributed throughout the environment, and seamlessly embedded into forests, rivers, and hills. Another possibility is piezoelectric systems that convert mechanical stress into electricity. On Pandora, this might involve living plants or vines that naturally bend in the wind or under the weight of animals. These movements could generate small amounts of energy, contributing to a broader, decentralized network of gentle energy harvesting. Neural and bioelectric networks on Pandora, energy might not only come from the environment but also flow through living, interconnected networks, similar to how the Navi communicate through IWA, the planetary neural web. Energy could be transmitted through bioelectric networks, such as fungal mycelium or plant root systems that conduct electricity. Mycelial networks already exist on Earth and form vast underground systems that exchange nutrients and signals between plants. On Pandora, these networks could be enhanced to carry energy from place to place, acting as living cables or even storing electrical charge. Devices could tap into these networks without damaging them, similar to how the Navi interface with sacred trees. Bioluminescent organisms could also serve functional roles in energy systems. These natural light-producing beings could replace electric lighting altogether, illuminating pathways, homes, or communal spaces without any need for external electricity. Because bioluminescence is powered by chemical reactions within the organism, it is renewable, silent, and fully biodegradable. Geothermal and planetary energy. If Pandora is geologically active, then geothermal energy could be a stable and clean energy source. However, unlike Earth's large-scale, industrial geothermal plants, Pandora would use low-impact geothermal systems. These might involve tapping into underground heat through natural hot springs or vent systems, using simple heat exchangers that do not disturb surrounding habitats or groundwater. Energy systems might also be tuned to planetary magnetic or gravitational forces, depending on Pandora's unique physics. This could include the capture of ambient electromagnetic energy generated by the planet's magnetosphere, or the harnessing of tidal and orbital energy if the Moon experiences strong gravitational pull from its host planet. Such systems would be passive and non-invasive, requiring only minor infrastructure to channel the planet's natural rhythms into usable energy. Water and atmospheric energy harvesting. Pandora's rivers, waterfalls, and rains would be vital energy sources. Instead of building dams or large turbines, the world would use micro-hydropower systems, small turbines placed in streams or waterfalls that generate electricity without altering water flows or harming aquatic life. These systems are decentralized, quiet, and easily maintained by local communities. Additionally, energy could be captured from atmospheric phenomena, such as static electricity, moisture, or even the charge in lightning storms. On Pandora, this might involve lightning harvesters that ground and store lightning energy safely during electrical storms, a naturally occurring and non-destructive form of high-energy capture. Fog and rain could also be used to collect water vapor or mechanical energy for electricity or irrigation. Human-scale sustainable technology. In a harmonious, vegan, and ecologically rich world, the energy use of individuals and communities would be modest and integrated into daily life. All technology would be designed with low energy requirements and built from biodegradable or naturally sourced materials. Tools, homes, and transport systems would use energy only when necessary, and would be powered by locally available renewable sources. Energy sharing and storage would take place through natural systems, such as living batteries based on organic compounds, or plants engineered to store solar energy in usable forms like starch, oils, or bioelectricity. Instead of massive energy storage facilities, small-scale distributed storage would ensure stability and redundancy. Cultural integration with energy use. Perhaps most importantly, energy on Pandora would be treated not as a commodity to be extracted, but as a sacred gift of life, deeply tied to the cycles of nature. People would live by natural rhythms, rising and resting with the sun, conserving energy as an expression of respect for the planet, and using power only when it aligns with ecological and spiritual values. This cultural attitude toward energy would ensure long-term sustainability, balance, and reverence for the living systems that provide it. Energy systems on a Pandora-like world would be fundamentally different from industrial technologies. They would be clean, renewable, low-impact, and deeply integrated with living ecosystems. Energy would be derived from biological processes, ambient forces, planetary rhythms, and atmospheric dynamics, all without harming the environment. It would flow through living networks and be used with reverence and restraint. This kind of energy system reflects the interconnectedness, harmony, and sustainability of Pandora, creating a world where life thrives, communities flourish, and energy serves all beings, not just human needs. How can we use the regenerative and energy systems from this world to terraform other planets? Using the regenerative and energy systems of a Pandora-like world to terraform other planets involves applying nature-inspired, closed-loop, ecologically balanced technologies and principles to transform barren or hostile environments into biologically active, habitable, and self-sustaining ecosystems. The goal is to replicate the deep harmony, biodiversity, and resilience seen in Pandora's ecosystems, but on worlds that currently lack them. Here's a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences. Seeding life with regenerative biological systems to terraform a planet using Pandora-like regenerative systems, we would begin by introducing life forms that can restore, regenerate, and build ecosystems from scratch. This involves deploying pioneer species, introduce extremophilic microbes, cyanobacteria, fungi, and lichens that can survive harsh conditions and slowly begin the process of soil formation, atmospheric oxygenation, and nutrient cycling. Using engineered mycelial networks, just like Pandora's interconnected neural and fungal systems, bioengineered or natural mycorrhizal fungi can be used to form the foundation of underground communication, nutrient sharing, and symbiotic plant support. Establishing soil creation cycles, these organisms would gradually break down rock, fix nitrogen, and create fertile soil, making the land habitable for more complex plants and animals. Biological energy systems to power terraforming infrastructure instead of relying on fossil fuels or resource-intensive technologies. Terraforming infrastructure can run on renewable, biologically integrated energy systems, such as photosynthetic bioenergy farms. Engineered algae or plants could generate energy from sunlight while releasing oxygen and building organic biomass to support life. Microbial fuel cells, microbes and bioreactors could produce electricity from waste and organic material, creating closed-loop energy systems powered by biology. Mycelium-based energy grids, fungal networks could be adapted to store or transmit energy across large regions, acting like living energy distribution systems. These systems can power essential terraforming functions like water extraction, temperature regulation, atmospheric processing, and habitat construction with minimal ecological disruption. Artificial ecological networks for planetary self-regulation like Pandora's Rewilding system, we can create interconnected biological intelligence and feedback networks to monitor, regulate, and guide terraforming. Bioneural ecosystem management. AI systems could be interfaced with living biosensors, like plants, microbes, or fungi, that detect environmental conditions and respond by adjusting ecosystem components, temperature, water flow, or nutrient distribution. Self-healing ecosystems introduce adaptive, self-regenerating organisms that restore damaged ecosystems through natural feedback mechanisms, similar to how Pandora's biosphere reacts to disturbances. Symbiotic system design. All introduced organisms and technologies should operate cooperatively, forming mutualistic networks where each part supports others, much like Pandora's flora and fauna are interdependent. Eco-architectures and sustainable habitats. Terraforming with Pandora principles means constructing habitats and infrastructure that support, rather than harm, ecosystems. Bioluminescent lighting and natural illumination. Replace artificial lighting with engineered bioluminescent organisms for energy-free light that supports circadian rhythms and ecosystem harmony. Living structures. Use mycelium, bamboo-like biostructures, or genetically enhanced plants to grow homes and facilities that are alive, self-repairing, and biodegradable. Bioinsulated habitats. Develop natural insulation using microbial mats, plant-based walls, or air-purifying vegetation to regulate temperature and air quality in enclosed spaces. Water cycle creation and atmospheric regulation. Regenerative terraforming requires the establishment of planetary water and climate systems, microbial clouds and rain generation. Use engineered microbes that release condensation nuclei to induce rainfall and start a water cycle. Transpiring forests and vapor networks. Introduce trees and vegetation that release water vapor, build clouds, and regulate local climates, similar to rainforests on Earth. Algal atmospheric factories. Floating or anchored algal farms can photosynthesize to produce oxygen, draw down CO2, and stabilize atmospheric composition. These systems mimic natural water and climate regulators and form the backbone of a habitable biosphere. Solar and ambient energy collection for planetary scale support large-scale energy needs can be met with Pandora-style ambient and renewable energy systems. Solar forests integrate solar harvesting structures into living plants or trees that produce both energy and biomass. Wind-powered bioturbines, wind energy systems designed to resemble trees or foliage, can generate energy without disrupting landscapes or airflow patterns. Piezoelectric and kinetic harvesters, devices embedded in soil or under canopy layers, could generate electricity from wind, rain, and foot traffic, small but steady supplies for decentralized systems. These systems would provide clean power for environmental control, life support systems, and communication across terraformed zones. Decentralized vegan food systems rooted in ecology. Terraforming the planet must include self-sustaining, plant-based food production systems, modeled on Pandora's ecological balance, rainforest-based agroecosystems. Once conditions are stabilized, plant-diverse, layered food forests that resemble tropical rainforests and produce fruits, seeds, nuts, and leaves. Algae, fungi, and insect-free protein systems. Algae and fungi can be used to produce complete protein without requiring animals or insect exploitation. Biocircular nutrient recycling. All organic waste should be composted and cycled through soil ecosystems to regenerate plant nutrients, closing the loop on food systems. This supports a fully vegan, waste-free civilization that aligns with the principles of regeneration and ecological abundance. Cultural integration and eco-spiritual connection. Terraforming success is not only technological but cultural. A Pandora-like approach requires that inhabitants of the New World develop a deep spiritual and ethical connection to the biosphere. Eco-conscious design of societies teach that all life is interconnected and sacred, promoting responsibility, balance, and gratitude for nature's gifts. Biocentric laws and ethics. Governance and resource use should be grounded in biocentric values that protect ecosystems and prevent exploitation. Art, language, and rituals rooted in nature embed natural cycles, patterns, and symbols into everyday culture, ensuring future generations remain in harmony with the living world. This ensures long-term stewardship and prevents future degradation of terraformed ecosystems. Using the regenerative and energy systems of a Pandora-like world to terraform other planets involves mimicking nature's processes, restoring ecosystems from microbial foundations, using biologically integrated energy sources, building self-regulating biospheres, and living within ecological limits. It requires developing symbiotic technologies, fostering spiritual and ethical alignment with nature, and prioritizing biodiversity, closed nutrient cycles, and renewable resources. Such terraforming is not about domination but about cultivating living, intelligent worlds that can thrive on their own, with humans as humble participants in their renewal and balance. Terraforming other planets using the regenerative and energy systems inspired by a Pandora-like world from Avatar involves replicating ecological harmony, biological interconnectedness, and sustainable energy integration. This approach requires creating living systems that regenerate themselves, build complexity over time, and support both environmental and human well-being. Below is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences. Seeding life through regenerative biological systems. The first and most critical step in terraforming is to seed life on a barren planet using regenerative biological systems. This process begins by introducing pioneer organisms, extremophilic bacteria, cyanobacteria, algae, lichens, and fungi that can survive in harsh environments. These organisms can photosynthesize, fix atmospheric nitrogen, and break down rock to slowly form organic rich soils. Over time, they build the foundation for more complex ecosystems. Additionally, engineered mycelial networks, fungal systems similar to the interconnected root-like webs on Pandora, can be used to establish underground communication and nutrient exchange systems. These networks promote plant growth, recycle nutrients, store carbon, and foster ecosystem resilience. By building a microbial and fungal base, the planet begins to develop self-organizing, life-supporting systems from the ground up, powering terraforming with biological and renewable energy systems. Instead of relying on fossil fuels or large industrial infrastructure, energy systems used in Pandora-inspired terraforming would be clean, renewable, and biologically integrated. For example, photosynthetic energy systems using algae or bioengineered plants can convert sunlight into usable electricity or fuels while simultaneously releasing oxygen and storing carbon. Microbial fuel cells can also be deployed, using microbes to generate electricity from organic matter. These systems can power essential equipment in early stages of terraforming, such as water extractors, atmospheric processors, and bioreactors. The goal is to use living systems that not only generate energy, but also contribute to environmental restoration and nutrient cycling. In advanced stages, mycelium-based or plant-based energy networks could replace traditional power grids. These systems would mimic the bioelectric connection seen on Pandora, where energy flows through living structures that are part of the ecosystem rather than external to it, creating interconnected ecological networks for self-regulation. On Pandora, ecosystems are intelligent and interconnected. Terraforming other planets can apply this principle by designing artificial ecological networks that regulate themselves through feedback loops. These networks would be composed of plants, microbes, fungi, and intelligent monitoring systems that respond to changes in temperature, moisture, and nutrient availability. By deploying bioneural systems, combinations of AI and biosensors integrated with living networks, terraforming infrastructure can adapt in real time. For instance, if a region becomes too dry, the system could redirect water from microbial reservoirs or open biocanopies to trap more moisture. This level of ecological feedback ensures that terraforming does not just create static environments, but dynamic, responsive ecosystems that evolve over time. Building eco-integrated habitats and infrastructure. Humans living on a terraformed world must reside in structures that support the planetary ecosystem rather than degrade it. Eco-integrated habitats would be made from biodegradable, regenerative materials such as fungal mycelium, algae-based composites, and grown plant structures. These buildings would be self-insulating, breathable, and designed to host living organisms as part of their architecture. Bioluminescent organisms could be used for natural lighting, reducing or eliminating the need for artificial electrical lighting. Water could be recycled through plant-based filtration systems. Air quality could be maintained using vertical gardens or microbial air purifying systems embedded within the structures themselves. All infrastructure would be low energy, modular, and capable of self-repair or decomposition when no longer needed. Establishing water and climate cycles. One of the most crucial aspects of terraforming is the creation of a stable hydrological and climate cycle. Inspired by Pandora's lush rainforests, terraforming would involve creating transpiring vegetation systems that release water vapor into the air, which helps form clouds and precipitation. Plants act as natural air conditioners and moisture regulators. Microbial cloud seeders, organisms that release particles that promote condensation, could be released into the atmosphere to start rainfall. Over time, as vegetation spreads, it would help build a self-sustaining water cycle. Additionally, algae farms or floating biorafts could help process atmospheric gases, producing oxygen and drawing down carbon dioxide to stabilize the climate. Harvesting ambient, low-impact renewable energy to support human and ecosystem needs without damaging the environment. Terraforming systems would rely on ambient, non-disruptive renewable energy. This includes solar forests, where solar panels are integrated into plant structures to collect sunlight without displacing nature. Wind plant hybrids, shaped like trees or vines, that generate electricity from gentle breezes. Micro-hydropower systems, using the flow of small streams to produce energy without altering water courses. Piezoelectric devices, embedded in forest floors or root systems, that convert natural vibrations into small amounts of energy. These systems would operate in harmony with life, not in opposition to it, and would be decentralized to avoid large infrastructure that fragments habitats. Developing vegan, regenerative food systems. A Pandora-inspired terraformed world must also provide food sustainably and ethically. This involves establishing vegan food forests, multi-layered agroforestry systems that mimic natural rainforests and produce fruits, nuts, vegetables, seeds, and plant oils. These systems regenerate soil, support wildlife, and require no chemical inputs. In early stages, algae and fungi-based food systems could be grown in bioreactors to provide high-protein, nutrient-dense foods with minimal land and water use. Closed-loop nutrient cycles would ensure all food waste is composted and returned to the soil, creating a circular system that continuously regenerates itself. There would be no animal agriculture, no factory farming, and no environmental destruction. All food production would enhance biodiversity and ecosystem resilience. Embedding ecological ethics in conscious culture. True Pandora-like terraforming involves not only technology and biology, but ethics and consciousness. Inhabitants of terraformed worlds must adopt values that respect and protect all life. This means teaching future generations that they are stewards, not owners, of the planet. Spiritual practices, cultural rituals, and educational systems would reinforce the understanding that all living beings are interconnected and that harming one part of the ecosystem harms the whole. Societies would be built on principles of compassion, balance, and regeneration, where technology serves life rather than exploits it. This cultural foundation ensures that the planet remains abundant, resilient, and in harmony with life, even centuries after the original terraforming mission. Terraforming other planets using regenerative and energy systems inspired by Pandora requires creating living ecosystems that build themselves, heal themselves, and support life in all its forms. This involves introducing microbial life to start soil and air formation, using bio-integrated energy systems, creating ecological feedback loops, building habitats that are part of the biosphere, establishing vegan food systems, and cultivating a culture that values harmony with nature. Rather than forcefully reshaping a planet, this approach nurtures its transformation as a living being, guided by biology, intelligence, and deep ecological awareness. This vision of terraforming is not about domination, it is about co-creation with nature, on new worlds that may one day thrive as beautifully as Pandora. How cities would look in a self-regenerative, eco-rich, rainforest Pandora world like an avatar. In a self-regenerative, eco-rich, rainforest world like Pandora from Avatar, cities would look radically different from the concrete, industrialized urban environments of today. These cities would not dominate nature, they would exist as part of the ecosystem, woven seamlessly into the living landscape. Every structure, pathway, and technology would serve life, enhance biodiversity, and operate in harmony with natural cycles. Here is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences of how such cities would look and function. Cities built as living ecosystems. Cities in a Pandora-like world would not be separated from nature, they would become ecosystems themselves. Buildings would be designed to mimic trees, vines, and natural formations, growing upwards and outwards like organic structures rather than rigid boxes. The architecture would follow biomimicry principles, copying natural forms such as canopies, roots, and branching patterns to optimize energy, airflow, and sunlight. Many structures would be grown rather than built, using mycelium, fungus-based materials, bamboo, engineered wood, and living plant systems that form natural walls, roofs, and columns. Some buildings might literally be living trees or giant plant organisms cultivated and shaped over time to form homes, towers, or bridges. Vertical rainforest architecture. Urban spaces would integrate multiple vertical layers of rainforest vegetation, just like a natural jungle. Buildings would be covered with mosses, vines, epiphytes, and edible plants, forming multi-layered green facades. Rooftops and balconies would host micro-ecosystems with butterflies, birds, frogs, and pollinators. Skyscrapers, if they exist, would resemble massive tree trunks, layered with climbing plants and hollowed spaces where people live or work. These vertical forests would absorb carbon dioxide, filter air, reduce heat, and act as habitats for countless species. Ground-level forest integration. At the ground level, cities would feel like living rainforests with open-air clearings. There would be no pavement or concrete streets. Instead, the ground would be a living forest floor with soil, roots, moss, and leaf litter. Trails and paths would be made from natural materials, winding around trees and water features. Instead of lawns or monoculture parks, cities would be surrounded by dense, native forests, edible gardens, medicinal plant groves, and wildlife corridors. Every square meter would be biologically productive and self-regenerating, requiring minimal human intervention because of the closed-loop systems at work. Tree-based or floating homes and communal structures. Homes might be built into massive living trees, similar to the home tree in Avatar. These tree structures would have natural insulation, light filtration through leaves, and built-in water catchment systems. Communities could also live in floating rainforest pods that move through forest canopies or float on lakes and rivers, made from lightweight, biodegradable materials. Communal spaces, like gathering circles, schools, or marketplaces, would be open air, shaded by massive leaves or bioengineered canopy structures. These spaces would encourage community cohesion, storytelling, learning from nature, and peaceful coexistence with the environment. Zero emission, plant-powered transportation. Cities in a Pandora-like world would not have cars, highways, or noise-polluting engines. Transportation would be non-invasive and ecological. Options might include walking or gliding through canopy bridges made of living vines, aerial travel using glider suits or bioengineered creatures, like banshees or their analogs, lightweight electric transport systems powered by renewable energy, solar, wind, or plant-based fuel, moving on soft tracks under the forest canopy or through treetop monorails. The focus would be on slow, mindful, and nature-sensitive movement, encouraging exploration and appreciation of the living environment. Renewable, bio-integrated energy systems. Cities would be powered entirely by clean, renewable energy that works in harmony with local ecosystems. Energy would come from solar harvesting leaves or biosolar panels integrated into vegetation, mycelium or plant-based bioelectricity that flows through underground living networks, micro-hydropower systems in streams and waterfalls, bioluminescent organisms providing soft, natural lighting at night. There would be no loud generators, power plants, or energy infrastructure that disrupts the landscape. Instead, the entire city would act like a living organism, quietly generating and circulating the energy it needs to sustain itself. Decentralized, closed-loop food and waste system. Cities in a Pandora-style world would be completely vegan and self-sustaining. Food would be grown locally through multi-layered food forests integrated into homes and public spaces, vertical gardens, rooftop farms, and edible walls, aquaponics and permaculture systems that recycle water and nutrients. All organic waste would be composted, and nutrients would return to the soil through fungal decomposition, vermiculture, and microbial digestion. Human waste would be processed through eco-toilets and biofilters, ensuring clean water and replenish soil without pollution. Rain, rivers, and sky as essential design elements. Water would flow freely through the city in the form of natural streams, rainfall catchments, and misting systems. Roofs would harvest rainwater and channel it into living reservoirs filled with aquatic plants and purifying microbes. The sky would be visible and celebrated, with no air pollution or artificial barriers. Skylines would be natural, made up of tall trees and plant-covered towers. Clouds, rainbows, and starlight would be part of daily life, appreciated as living elements of the planetary system. Spiritual and sensory design. City life would not be rushed or industrial, it would be sensory-rich, sacred, and slow. The city would have sacred groves, meditation caves, and ceremony spaces where people connect with nature's intelligence. Smells of earth, flowers, and fruit would replace the scent of pollution. Birdsong, rustling leaves, and flowing water would replace city noise. Lights would dim at night to protect nocturnal species and human circadian rhythms. The entire city would encourage deep presence, interconnectedness, and emotional well-being. Living culture in harmony with nature. Culture would reflect deep respect for nature. Music, art, and architecture would be inspired by organic patterns, spirals, fractals, veins, and branching. Language and storytelling would encode ecological knowledge and sacred relationships with plants and animals. People would be caretakers of life, not owners of property. Education would happen in the forest, led by elders and naturalists. Children would learn through experience with living systems, not abstract textbooks. Governance would be ecocratic, a blend of democratic participation and ecological guidance, where the health of ecosystems guides decisions, and future generations are always considered. Cities in a self-regenerative, eco-rich rainforest world like Pandora would be living, breathing ecosystems. They would grow like forests, function like organisms, and evolve like wild landscapes. Every system, energy, food, shelter, transportation, and culture would be embedded in the cycles of life, producing no waste and offering beauty, abundance, and healing. Humans would no longer be separate from nature, but would live as one species within a much greater living world, co-creating a civilization of balance, wonder, and resilience. A city in a self-regenerative, eco-rich rainforest world like Pandora from Avatar would look and function entirely differently from modern industrial cities. Instead of concrete, steel, and pollution, the city would be a harmonious part of nature, built from living materials, powered by renewable energies, and designed to regenerate itself, support biodiversity, and promote well-being for all living beings. Below is a comprehensive explanation, written in complete sentences. Cities would function as living ecosystems in a Pandora-like world. Cities would not separate humans from nature. Instead, they would be designed as living, breathing ecosystems. The boundaries between city and wilderness would dissolve. The entire urban environment would be biologically alive, filled with trees, plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms. Buildings would function like tree canopies, absorbing sunlight and water, producing oxygen, hosting life, and regulating climate naturally. Instead of rigid, geometric architecture, structures would follow biomimicry, mimicking the forms, functions, and behaviors of natural systems. Towers would resemble tree trunks, homes would flow like hills or leaves, pathways would weave like vines or riverbeds. The city would not be imposed on the landscape, it would grow from it. Buildings would be grown from living material structures, and the city would not be manufactured through industrial processes, but grown from living materials. Advanced biotechnology and biomaterials would enable people to cultivate homes and public buildings out of mycelium, fungal roots, bamboo, trees, algae composites, or engineered plants. These materials would be biodegradable, self-repairing, and adapt to their environments like living tissue. Many homes might be built into giant living trees, similar to the home tree in Avatar. These trees would provide shelter, store rainwater, regulate temperature, and act as spiritual and communal centers. Rooftops and walls would be alive with mosses, vines, flowers, and small food-producing plants, creating microhabitats for insects, birds, and pollinators. The city ground would be a lush forest floor at ground level. The city would feel like a vibrant rainforest. There would be no concrete or asphalt streets. Instead, soft, earthen trails would wind through thick vegetation, overgrown roots, and flowing streams. Fungi, lichens, ferns, and wildflowers would cover the ground. Pathways might be made of interlocking plant fibers or stones that allow rain to filter through naturally. The ground layer would be teeming with life, frogs, insects, fungi, and small mammals, all living undisturbed in a protected, urban rainforest. This level would also be where food forests, herbal gardens, and composting areas thrive, providing nourishment and recycling nutrients in a self-regenerating loop. Multi-layered vertical rainforest structures, buildings, and public spaces would rise vertically like forest layers. At lower levels, dense shrubs and medicinal plants would grow. In the middle layers, edible vines, fruit trees, and flowering plants would climb walls and terraces. At the top, canopy trees would extend toward the sky, forming green roofs, energy collectors, and wildlife corridors. These vertical forests would cool the air, provide shade, purify pollution, and create homes for countless species. Inside the buildings, light would filter through leaves, and walls might exhale fresh oxygen. Spaces would be open, breathable, and interconnected with nature at every level. Transportation would be organic and emission-free. Cities in this world would not have cars, highways, or gas-powered machines. Transportation would be non-invasive, quiet, and clean. Most people would walk or glide along elevated vine bridges, area paths, or floating platforms that wind through tree canopies. For longer distances, gliders, personal flight suits, or biohybrid aerial creatures, akin to the banshees in Avatar, might be used. There could also be solar-powered electric pods running on tree-integrated tracks that gently curve through the city. The aim would be to move through nature without disturbing it, silently, softly, and with grace. Energy would come from natural and renewable sources. All energy in the city would come from renewable, decentralized sources that operate in harmony with the biosphere. Energy would be captured through biosolar panels integrated with leaves and plant structures. Mycelium networks that conduct electricity underground. Piezoelectric generators embedded in forest floors, which capture energy from footsteps, wind, or rain. Small hydro systems that generate electricity from gently flowing water in streams or waterfalls. There would be no fossil fuels, no large power plants, and no transmission towers. Energy would be local, clean, and distributed through living networks, much like the way nutrients and signals flow through Pandora's biosphere. Water would be cycled naturally through the landscape. Rain would be cherished and celebrated. Buildings and trees would harvest rainwater and channel it through natural filtration systems, such as sand beds, biochar layers, or aquatic plant ponds. This clean water would be used for drinking, bathing, irrigation, and habitat support. Streams and rivers would flow naturally through the city, supporting aquatic life and cooling the air. Fog catchers, dew harvesters, and mist gardens would help maintain moisture levels. Every drop of water would be part of a closed-loop system, purified and reused without waste. Vegan food would be grown everywhere. Cities would be entirely vegan, with food grown in layered agroforestry systems. Fruit trees, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, and medicinal plants would be cultivated in every part of the city, on rooftops, balconies, vertical walls, and in community food forests. There would be no animal farming, no slaughterhouses, and no deforestation for pasture. Instead, food systems would be regenerative, soil building, and pollinator-friendly. Organic waste would be composted and returned to the earth, closing the nutrient loop and supporting continuous abundance. Culture would be ecological and spiritual. Daily life in this city would be guided by reverence for nature. Art, music, and storytelling would draw from natural patterns like spirals, fractals, and cycles. Children would be raised in nature-based schools, learning directly from ecosystems and elders who pass on ecological wisdom. Rituals would honor the moon, sun, rain, soil, and forest spirits. People would live by ecocentric values, placing the health of the planet above personal gain. Governance would be based on ecological democracy, where decisions are made with the input of scientists, communities, and representatives for the land, animals, and future generations. The city would be self-regenerating and ever-evolving. Above all, the city would be self-regenerating. Plants would reseed themselves, fungi would break down waste, water would purify itself, and food systems would become more fertile over time. People would act not as builders but as gardeners, caretakers, and co-creators. The city would change with the seasons, adapt to climate shifts, and evolve as life demands. Instead of resisting nature's rhythms, it would dance with them. In this way, the city would not age and decay like human infrastructure. It would thrive, heal, and grow stronger over time. A city in a self-regenerative, eco-rich rainforest world like Pandora would be a place where humanity lives as part of nature, not apart from it. It would be built from living materials, powered by natural forces, and governed by respect for all life. Every element of the city would support biodiversity, reduce harm, and restore balance. Instead of pollution and exploitation, there would be beauty, resilience, and abundance. This kind of city represents the highest form of sustainable civilization, a living symbiosis between people and planet. How can we build the most sustainable, self-regenerative, eco-rich and abundant world like Pandora in Avatar? Building the most sustainable, self-regenerative, eco-rich, and biologically abundant world like Pandora from Avatar requires a complete transformation of human society, technologically, ecologically, economically, and culturally. Such a world would function like a living organism, all parts interconnected, continuously cycling energy and matter, supporting abundant life, and maintaining long-term balance. This vision is possible on Earth if we align our systems with the principles of nature. Below is a comprehensive, step-by-step explanation written in complete sentences. Rewild and regreen the planet. To create a world like Pandora, we must return vast areas of land and sea to nature and allow ecosystems to heal and regenerate. Rewilding involves restoring native forests, grasslands, wetlands, and coral reefs by removing harmful human activity, such as deforestation, overfishing, and pollution. Large-scale planting of diverse native species, not monocultures, rebuilds habitats and supports complex food webs. Permaculture and food forests can replace unsustainable agriculture, producing food while enhancing biodiversity. Urban areas must be transformed into green, forested environments, with rooftop gardens, vertical farms, green corridors, and wild sanctuaries. This increases carbon capture, stabilizes climates, and rebuilds the planetary biosphere. Replace extractive economies with regenerative ones. Current systems rely on exploiting nature. A Pandora-like world requires regenerative economies that restore more than they take. Circular economies must eliminate waste by designing products that are fully reusable, recyclable, or biodegradable. Bioregional economies would prioritize local production using regional resources, reducing global supply chains and encouraging community resilience. Replace GDP growth with metrics of ecosystem health, well-being, and regeneration, such as the Genuine Progress Indicator, GPI. Shift investments from fossil fuels, mining, and industrial agriculture to renewable energy, ecosystem restoration, reforestation, and ecological education. Transition entirely to clean, renewable, and biologically integrated energy. Energy must come from sources that are renewable, decentralized, and integrated with ecosystems. Use solar, wind, geothermal, microhydro, and wave energy, adapted to local environments to minimize disruption. Develop photosynthetic energy systems like algae biofuel, bioelectric fungi, and engineered plants that store or transmit energy biologically. Employ mycelial and microbial energy networks, mimicking Pandora's energy-sharing life systems. Replace industrial grids with distributed, autonomous microgrids that store and share energy sustainably across communities. Energy should be abundant yet gentle, aligned with the pace and flow of life. Shift to a fully plant-based, regenerative food system. A vegan, biodiversity-friendly food system is essential to restore ecosystems. Replace animal agriculture with vegan agroecological systems, such as food forests, polyculture farms, aquaponics, and regenerative soil farming. Grow food vertically in urban spaces, on rooftops, and in greenhouses to reduce land use. Use perennial crops, myco-agriculture, fungi-based systems, and native plants to feed people while enriching the soil and landscape. Recover and recycle all food and organic waste into compost, biofertilizers, or methane-free energy. This approach not only feeds humanity, but regrows natural systems and ends the need for land clearing and animal suffering. Regenerate water systems and restore climate cycles. In a Pandora-like world, water and climate are managed through nature, not engineering alone. Replant trees and rebuild wetlands to restore the water cycle, reduce droughts, and rehydrate landscapes. Use rainwater harvesting, greywater recycling, and natural filtration, like reed beds or aquaponic wetlands for clean water. End desertification by greening degraded lands, using techniques like swales, contour planting, mulching, and ecosystem repair. Support cloud formation and local rain through large-scale reforestation and soil carbon restoration. These systems cool the earth, restore rainfall, and protect all life, just as forests do on Pandora. Design cities as living ecosystems. Cities must become extensions of nature, not its enemies. Build cities with biophilic design, green roofs, plant-covered buildings, tree-lined streets, and natural water features. Use living materials such as mycelium bricks, bamboo, algae bioplastics, and hempcrete. Ban synthetic, non-degradable construction and fossil-based infrastructure. Replace cars with public transport, walking, gliding paths, and plant-powered mobility. Integrate urban forests, pollinator gardens, and food-growing systems directly into homes, schools, and workplaces. Urban life in a Pandora world would feel like walking through a rainforest village, not a concrete jungle. Cultivate an ecological worldview and culture. A Pandora-like world requires a cultural transformation rooted in ecocentrism and interconnectedness. Teach ecological literacy in every school, focusing on systems thinking, natural cycles, and bioregional living. Encourage spiritual practices that reconnect people with Earth, through rituals, storytelling, and ceremonies that honor nature. Replace consumerism and materialism with simplicity, reciprocity, gratitude, and care for the Earth. Protect and uplift indigenous knowledge systems, which already embody many of the principles needed for ecological harmony. Shift from domination to partnership with life, seeing ourselves not as rulers of nature but participants within its web. Culture must reflect that all life is sacred, interconnected, and worthy of protection. Embed nature into governance and law. To build a world like Pandora, nature must have rights and a voice in decision-making. Enact ecocentric laws that recognize the rights of rivers, forests, species, and ecosystems to exist and thrive. Create Earth Councils or biocivic assemblies that include scientists, indigenous leaders, and citizen stewards who represent the environment in policymaking. Base governance on long-term ecological planning, looking 100+ years ahead, not just quarterly profits or election cycles. Hold industries and governments accountable for ecological damage, and redirect subsidies toward regeneration and preservation. Governance must become a caretaker of life, not a mechanism of exploitation. Restore global ecosystems through large-scale planet-healing projects. Massive planetary restoration initiatives can reverse centuries of degradation, support and expand the Great Green Wall in Africa, rainforest regeneration in the Amazon, mangrove restoration in Asia, and coral reef rebuilding in the oceans. Launch new initiatives to green deserts, reforest urban and rural lands, and plant pollinator corridors across continents. Empower communities worldwide with funding, training, and sovereignty to heal their lands and manage resources sustainably. These actions create biospheric abundance, protect the climate, and support all life on Earth. Foster a deep, spiritual connection to the living world. The final and most essential transformation is internal. Humans must feel, know, and live as a part of nature. Teach that the Earth is a living being, not a resource machine. Practice rituals of gratitude, reciprocity, and reverence for the gifts of water, food, trees, animals, and air. Build sacred sites, groves, and community altars where people connect with nature's intelligence, like the Tree of Souls in Avatar. Share life stories, myths, and ceremonies that keep ecological memory alive and shape a culture of guardianship and wonder. This heart-centered shift aligns humanity with life, ensuring we live in harmony with the living systems that support us. Building a sustainable, self-regenerative, eco-rich, and abundant world like Pandora is fully possible if we transform every aspect of human life to mirror the wisdom of nature. This means rewilding the planet, restoring ecosystems, embracing plant-based living, using clean energy, redesigning cities, reforming economies, and awakening a deep spiritual connection to Earth. When we live by nature's laws, not above them, we create not just sustainability, but a civilization rooted in beauty, healing, and lasting abundance for all life. To build a world as sustainable, self-regenerative, ecologically rich, and abundant as Pandora and Avatar, we must transform the entire foundation of human civilization. This transformation requires rethinking how we interact with nature, how we grow food, how we build cities, how we produce energy, and how we define progress and culture. Every aspect of society must align with the core principles of natural ecosystems, interconnectedness, regeneration, diversity, balance, and harmony. Below is a comprehensive and detailed explanation in complete sentences. Rewild and regreen the Earth. To create a world as biologically abundant as Pandora, we must allow nature to recover on a massive scale. Rewilding means restoring natural ecosystems by removing damaging human activities and reintroducing native plants and animals. This process helps rebuild the complex web of life that supports biodiversity, climate stability, and ecosystem resilience. Large-scale reforestation, wetland restoration, and marine conservation efforts must be implemented globally. Urban areas must also be transformed into green, living environments by integrating trees, gardens, and natural habitats into buildings and infrastructure. In this rewilded Earth, humans would no longer dominate nature but become part of it, coexisting with other species in shared, vibrant ecosystems. Adopt regenerative and circular economies. Current economies extract resources, pollute the environment, and generate waste. To build a world like Pandora, we must adopt a regenerative economy that restores and replenishes the Earth's natural systems. In this new model, products are designed to be fully reusable, recyclable, or compostable. Waste is eliminated, and all materials cycle back into nature or production. A circular economy supports local economies, minimizes transportation, and values long-term ecosystem health over short-term profit. It incentivizes industries to rebuild soil, purify air and water, and enhance biodiversity. In a regenerative world, economic success is measured by the health of ecosystems, community well-being, and intergenerational sustainability. Power civilization with renewable and living energy systems. Energy systems in a Pandora-like world must be clean, renewable, and in harmony with ecosystems. Instead of burning fossil fuels, energy would be produced through solar, wind, geothermal, and hydroelectric systems. These systems must be decentralized, allowing communities to generate and manage their own energy using local resources. New biological energy systems, such as microbial fuel cells, mycelium bioelectricity, and photosynthetic materials, could be integrated into the landscape to generate energy with minimal disruption. Homes, vehicles, and public infrastructure would all be powered by sunlight, wind, water, and bioenergy. The energy grid itself could become part of the ecosystem, growing like roots through the earth instead of being imposed upon it. Transition to a fully plant-based, regenerative food system. A fully vegan food system is essential to building a sustainable and ecologically rich world. Industrial animal agriculture is one of the leading causes of deforestation, climate change, water pollution, and biodiversity loss. Replacing it with plant-based, regenerative agriculture would drastically reduce environmental destruction. Food production would shift to agroforestry, food forests, vertical farms, aquaponics, and native perennial crops. These systems not only provide abundant nutrition but also build soil, store carbon, increase biodiversity, and eliminate synthetic chemicals. Food waste would be composted and returned to the earth, creating a closed-loop, zero-waste food system that nourishes both people and the planet. Restore the planet's water and climate systems. Just like Pandora, Earth needs thriving forests and wetlands to regulate water cycles, produce rain, and cool the climate. Forests release water vapor, build clouds, and prevent floods and droughts. Restoring them is critical for planetary health. We must reforest degraded lands, protect watersheds, and rehabilitate wetlands and coral reefs. Natural water systems must be prioritized over artificial infrastructure. Rainwater harvesting, greywater recycling, and natural filtration systems, like reed beds and bioswales, would clean and cycle water locally. These efforts would support healthy rainfall patterns, maintain fresh water supplies, and cool urban and rural areas alike. Design cities as living, breathing forest communities. Cities of the future must be designed as living ecosystems. Rather than separating humans from nature, they must fully integrate trees, plants, animals, and natural cycles into every aspect of urban life. Buildings would be covered in vegetation, constructed from biodegradable materials, and designed to regulate temperature naturally through green walls and roofs. Transportation systems would rely on walking, biking, electric transit, and plant-powered mobility. Concrete roads would be replaced with earthen paths, forest trails, and elevated walkways through tree canopies. All infrastructure, homes, schools, markets, and public spaces would serve both humans and the surrounding ecology, creating an environment where biodiversity can thrive in and around human settlements. Embed ecological values into education, culture, and governance. To truly live in harmony with the planet, society must be guided by ecological principles. Education at all levels must teach ecological literacy, systems thinking, and bioregional knowledge. Children should learn how ecosystems function, how to grow food sustainably, and how to care for the earth. Culturally, we must shift from consumerism and domination to reverence, gratitude, and reciprocity. Art, stories, rituals, and spirituality must reflect humanity's deep connection to the living world. Politically, governance systems must recognize the rights of nature and ensure that all decisions consider their ecological impact. Laws and policies should protect ecosystems and future generations, not just economic interests. Protect indigenous knowledge and empower local stewardship. Indigenous cultures have lived sustainably for millennia by respecting nature and living within its limits. Their knowledge and practices are essential for building a regenerative world. These communities must be empowered, protected, and supported in leading ecological restoration efforts. Land stewardship should be localized, placing decision-making in the hands of those who are directly connected to and dependent on the land. This ensures long-term care and accountability. Global systems should support these efforts with funding, education, and cooperation, never with extraction or exploitation. Launch global restoration campaigns to heal the planet. Planetary scale change requires coordinated action. Governments, communities, businesses, and individuals must come together to replant forests, restore coral reefs, rehydrate deserts, and rebuild ecosystems. Massive projects, such as the Great Green Wall in Africa, mangrove restoration in Asia, or regenerative agriculture corridors in the Americas, must be expanded globally. Such campaigns create jobs, feed communities, store carbon, and stabilize the climate. Every ecosystem restored brings us closer to a world as abundant and harmonious as Pandora, awaken a deep spiritual connection to the earth. Perhaps most importantly, humanity must reconnect spiritually with the earth. A world like Pandora is not only biologically rich but deeply sacred. People there live with reverence for the forests, animals, rivers, and sky. To replicate this, we must recognize the earth not as a resource to be used, but as a living, conscious being to be respected and protected. Spiritual practices, ceremonies, and community rituals should honor the cycles of nature and reinforce the understanding that all life is interconnected. When people feel this deep connection, they naturally act as caretakers of the earth, ensuring that life continues to flourish. Building a world as sustainable and abundant as Pandora requires us to change everything, from how we produce energy and food, to how we build our cities, govern our societies, educate our children, and relate to nature. It is not a return to the past, but a leap into a future where human beings live as part of Earth's ecosystems, rather than separate from them. This transformation is both a technical and spiritual journey, guided by the wisdom of nature and the desire to live in peace, beauty, and balance with all life. If we choose this path, Earth itself can become our living Pandora. How can terraform Mars and other planets? By using this Pandora-like world. Terraforming Mars and other planets using the principles of a sustainable, regenerative, eco-rich world like Pandora involves replicating Earth's biospheric intelligence and biological systems to transform barren, lifeless worlds into living, self-sustaining ecosystems. This approach does not rely on industrial colonization, but rather on creating planetary systems that evolve, heal, and support complex life, just like Earth's ecosystems do. Here is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences of how we can terraform other planets using a Pandora-like Earth as the template. Build Earth first as a regenerative model planet before terraforming Mars or any other planet. We must demonstrate ecological mastery on Earth. A fully sustainable, biologically rich, and regenerative Earth becomes a blueprint. It provides the systems, technologies, organisms, and cultural practices necessary for terraforming elsewhere. Once Earth has been transformed into a living, self-repairing biosphere, through rewilding, plant-based food systems, clean energy, and eco-conscious culture, these solutions can be adapted for off-world environments. Seed life using extremophile and engineered microorganisms. Terraforming begins with life forms that can survive hostile conditions. We can deploy extremophiles, organisms adapted to radiation, cold, and dryness, such as cyanobacteria that photosynthesize and release oxygen, algae that fix carbon and create biomass, fungi and lichens that break down rock into soil, engineered microbes that can pull nitrogen, fix carbon, and produce heat or moisture. These organisms create the first biological layer, called a biological scaffold, that prepares the planet for more complex life. Establish fungal and mycelial networks as a biospheric base. Just as Pandora's ecosystems are connected through underground neural-like mycelial webs, Mars can be seeded with engineered fungi and mycorrhizal systems. These mycelial networks stabilize regolith, loose soil, retain moisture, and transfer nutrients. Fungi can break down toxic minerals, generate soil, and form symbiotic relationships with plant roots. They also serve as natural carbon storage and communication networks for developing ecosystems. This system would serve as the planet's immune system, nutrient circulator, and structural builder, just as mycelium does in forests on Earth. Deploy closed-loop biospheres and terraforming greenhouses while outdoor conditions remain harsh. Biological terraforming must begin in domed, semi-contained ecosystems, bioregenerative life support systems, BLSS, combine plants, microbes, and water cycles to create air, food, and clean water. These biospheres simulate rainforest ecosystems, using vertical layers of plants, fungi, and moisture cycling. Early greenhouses would grow vegan food using recycled nutrients and mycofilters to clean air. Over time, the waste heat, humidity, and gas exchange from these biospheres help shape the local climate, gradually expanding habitability. Use algae and plants to enrich the atmosphere and climate. To make the atmosphere breathable, we need to increase oxygen in moderate temperatures, Photosynthetic organisms like algae and engineered mosses can convert CO2 into oxygen. Floating algal mats can be placed in craters or artificial lakes, contributing biomass and atmospheric gases. Fast-growing plants like salt-tolerant grasses and nitrogen fixers could be adapted to Martian conditions with gene editing. This slow, natural process mimics Earth's great oxygenation event and gradually shifts the atmosphere toward breathable conditions. Engineer water cycles using green infrastructure. Water is vital for life. Terraforming includes capturing, generating, and cycling water, extract subsurface ice using solar-powered drills and release water vapor into the air. Create fog nets, moss-covered surfaces, and fungal sponges to trap moisture. Use recycled water loops within biospheres and hydroponic systems. Introduce engineered plant and fungal systems that exhale water vapor into the atmosphere, simulating transpiration. These strategies support cloud formation, precipitation, and humidity stabilization, initiating a self-perpetuating water cycle. Develop living architecture and eco-cities. Cities on Mars must mimic Pandora-style settlements, living, sustainable, and self-healing. Build structures from mycelium bricks, algae bioplastics, or regolith, bonded biomaterials that grow and repair themselves. Integrate vertical forests, edible walls, and oxygen-generating gardens into buildings. Use solar forests, plant-powered batteries, and decentralized energy grids to run everything cleanly. Eliminate waste through closed-loop systems that recycle all matter into new growth. These bio-integrated habitats become the first ecological villages on other planets, places where humans live within life, not above it. Expand forests and ecosystems in phases. Once soil, moisture, and air reach suitable levels in domed or partially open environments, larger plant ecosystems can be established. Start with hardy shrubs, lichens, and grasses, gradually layering more complex forests and food systems. Build modular rainforest units that can be replicated and networked. Allow these systems to expand outward as microclimates improve, creating regenerative oases that grow into forests, wetlands, and grasslands. These new biospheres would be self-sustaining, recycling nutrients, supporting wildlife, engineered or relocated, and stabilizing local environments. Guide the terraforming process through ecological AI and bioregional stewardship. Managing planetary regeneration requires intelligence and adaptation. Use AI-guided ecological networks to monitor soil health, plant growth, climate data, and ecosystem feedback. Create adaptive terraforming algorithms that respond to changes in microbial activity, carbon levels, and water cycles. Employ humans as bioregional stewards, tending to ecosystems much like indigenous forest caretakers, using observation, care, and intervention only when needed. This ensures terraforming remains a living process, not a mechanical one, guided by nature's principles, not brute force. Evolve a planetary culture based on harmony with life. Just like on Pandora, a terraformed world must be guided by cultural values rooted in ecological harmony. All colonization efforts must be vegan, non-extractive, and reverent toward life. Cultural practices should include sacred relationships with land, water, and other species. Governance should be based on ecocracy, a system where the needs of ecosystems and future generations are prioritized. Settlers should see themselves not as conquerors, but as gardeners and co-creators of a living world. Only with the right ethics can the technological and biological systems thrive over generations. Terraforming Mars and other planets by using a Pandora-like Earth involves exporting life-based systems, not machines, to reshape barren worlds into living, thriving ecosystems. This includes using microbial pioneers, fungal networks, regenerative greenhouses, renewable energy, water cycling, forest expansion, and eco-conscious culture. Terraforming must follow nature's slow, adaptive, decentralized methods, where each phase supports the next in a long-term, life-affirming journey. If Earth becomes a self-sustaining biosphere that heals and renews itself, we can bring that model to other worlds, not by force, but by life itself. Terraforming Mars and other planets by using Earth, specifically, a version of Earth modeled after Pandora from Avatar, as a living, sustainable, self-regenerative template involves transforming barren, inhospitable environments into ecologically functioning, biologically rich ecosystems that can support life long-term. This approach does not depend solely on machines or industrial-scale infrastructure, but rather on biological intelligence, regenerative design, and ecological processes that mimic and reproduce Earth's most life-supporting systems. Below is a comprehensive explanation, written in complete sentences. Begin by making Earth a model regenerative biosphere before humanity can terraform another planet. We must demonstrate full ecological mastery here on Earth. This means transforming Earth into a fully regenerative, self-healing, vegan, and biologically abundant world. By restoring rainforests, building closed-loop food and water systems, and replacing polluting energy with renewables, we can make Earth a living proof of concept. Once we succeed in creating stable, self-regenerating ecosystems on our home planet, we can transfer these systems, technologies, materials, organisms, and knowledge to other planets. Seed life with engineered microorganisms and extremophiles. Terraforming begins with the introduction of life forms that can survive the harsh conditions of Mars or similar planets. These planets often have extreme cold, low atmospheric pressure, high radiation, and very little water. Certain organisms from Earth, called extremophiles, can survive in such conditions. These include bacteria, fungi, algae, and lichens that can tolerate high radiation, extreme dryness, and freezing temperatures. Scientists can also genetically engineer microbes to perform useful functions such as producing oxygen, fixing nitrogen, breaking down rock to release minerals, and forming the first layers of soil. These organisms would be released into controlled environments at first, such as biodomes or shielded greenhouses, where they would begin forming biological networks and converting energeology into fertile land. Establish underground and enclosed mycelial ecosystems. Fungal networks, mycelium, would be essential for building the foundation of terraforming ecosystems. Mycelium can stabilize soil, or Martian regolith, retain water, and support microbial and plant life. These fungal systems can be deployed underground to form the first life-supporting substrates, similar to how forests on Earth rely on mycorrhizal fungi to share nutrients and information among plant roots. These underground ecosystems could also help regulate carbon dioxide and methane, produce biological heat, and eventually serve as organic insulation for human settlements or growing environments. Fungal systems offer a form of biological infrastructure that mimics the interconnected life web of Pandora's forest floor. Create self-sustaining biospheres in terraforming greenhouses. Because the Martian surface is currently uninhabitable, initial terraforming must occur inside enclosed biomes, also known as bioregenerative life support systems, BLSS. These are closed-loop habitats that recycle air, water, nutrients, and waste, using plants, algae, and microbes to create livable conditions. These greenhouses or biodomes would be the starting points of terraforming. Inside them, multi-layered rainforest-like ecosystems can be cultivated using fast-growing plants, edible crops, vines, mosses, and fungi. As they expand and stabilize, the heat and moisture generated by these biospheres could begin influencing the immediate surrounding environment, slowly increasing local humidity and temperature. Use plants and algae to modify the atmosphere and produce oxygen. Mars has a very thin, mostly carbon dioxide-based atmosphere with very little breathable oxygen. Through photosynthesis, certain microorganisms and plants can absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. For example, cyanobacteria and algae are efficient oxygen producers and could be deployed on Martian surfaces or in shallow water systems within biodomes or craters. Over time, with adequate sunlight and water, these organisms could begin modifying the atmosphere, producing more oxygen and potentially supporting higher forms of plant life. Large-scale algae ponds, moss fields, or engineered trees could expand this effect. The process would be slow and take generations, but it would mimic Earth's own oxygenation history, which took billions of years but was driven by simple life forms. Develop biological water cycling systems. Water is essential for life, and Mars has subsurface ice and seasonal water flows that could be harvested. Terraforming efforts would include melting ice using solar mirrors or geothermal techniques, and storing the water in artificial lakes, aquifers, and greenhouses. Biological water cycling, through transpiration from plants and fungal water networks, would help create microclimates and retain moisture. Bioengineered mosses and sponges could capture atmospheric humidity, while water collected from condensation or underground sources could be recycled constantly through plant and microbial systems. These water networks would be the foundation for creating rivers, ponds, and eventually rainfall. Construct biointegrated settlements inspired by nature. Human habitats on terraformed planets would need to be living structures, not metal bunkers. Buildings would be made from materials like mycelium bricks, hempcrete, algae-based polymers, or regolith-bound biodegradable composites. These materials are lightweight, insulating, and capable of self-repair or regrowth. The designs would mimic natural ecosystems, with homes shaped like trees, canopies, or caves. Edible plants, medicinal herbs, and oxygen-producing flora would be integrated into the architecture. These settlements would not just protect humans, they would participate in the biological cycles that support the planet's recovery and development. Expand ecosystems through modular and adaptive growth. Once localized biomes are thriving, the goal would be to expand these zones gradually. Terraforming cannot be imposed by machines alone, it must grow like a forest. Expansion could occur in modular phases, where new biomes are seeded nearby and gradually connected into a mosaic of ecosystems. These growing ecosystems would evolve based on local feedback, soil conditions, solar radiation, microbial activity, and moisture levels. AI-guided environmental monitoring systems would adjust inputs, like nutrient levels or plant species, as needed. Over decades, the climate inside these biomes might influence nearby outdoor areas, leading to slow atmospheric changes, natural temperature regulation, and ecological spillover. Establish a culture of ecological stewardship. Terraforming must be guided by a philosophy of coexistence, not conquest. The people settling new worlds must view themselves as stewards of life, not industrial colonizers. Cultural practices would center on ecological balance, mindfulness, and respect for all forms of life. Education systems would teach ecological knowledge, interspecies communication, and spiritual relationships with the land, just like the Navi and Avatar. Governance would be biocentric, meaning that laws and decisions would be made in alignment with the well-being of ecosystems, future generations, and planetary stability. Maintain terraforming through biofeedback and ecosystem intelligence. Once early ecosystems are established, the terraforming process must be self-regulating and adaptive. Biological feedback systems, like plant health, fungal conductivity, atmospheric composition, and soil biodiversity, can be monitored in real time using AI, sensors, and bioindicators. Terraforming should follow nature's lead, evolving slowly, symbiotically, and with resilience. When a region becomes biologically stable, it can support more complex life and potentially outdoor settlements. Over generations, these areas may develop into fully functioning forests, wetlands, and grasslands, much like those on Earth. In conclusion, we can terraform Mars and other planets by first transforming Earth into a living, regenerative, Pandora-like world. From this Earth, we take ecological knowledge, renewable energy systems, plant-based food cultures, fungal infrastructure, water cycling systems, and deep respect for life and bring them to other worlds. Terraforming becomes not an act of domination but an act of gardening, care, and co-creation, growing new biospheres with patience, intelligence, and reverence for nature. Over time, barren planets can become homes for forests, rivers, oxygen, and life, not because we imposed machines, but because we followed the wisdom of living systems. What are the most sustainable and regenerative systems inspired from the biodiverse rainforest planet Pandora and Avatar that can replace every industry in the world? The biodiverse rainforest planet Pandora from Avatar presents a model of ecological harmony, abundance, and regeneration. Its living systems operate in perfect balance, where energy, resources, and life forms are interconnected in mutual support. By drawing inspiration from Pandora, we can design sustainable and regenerative systems that replace every destructive or extractive industry on Earth with systems that are circular, self-renewing, and life-enhancing. Here is a comprehensive and complete explanation, written in full sentences, of the most sustainable and regenerative systems inspired by Pandora that can replace every major industry on Earth. Energy industry. Biointegrated renewable energy systems. Pandora's inspiration. The Navi draw energy from the planet without extracting or polluting. Energy is shared through living neural networks, such as the tree of souls and interconnected roots. Replacement system, solar biophotovoltaics using living photosynthetic organisms, like algae or cyanobacteria, to generate the electricity from sunlight. Mycelium and microbial fuel cells that produce energy from soil microbes and organic matter, embedded in green infrastructure. Wind, solar, geothermal, and hydrokinetic systems scaled down and integrated within ecosystems, ensuring minimal disruption. Piezoelectric bioroads that capture mechanical energy from footsteps or flowing water. These systems provide clean, decentralized, ecosystem-integrated power without harming the environment. Construction industry living, biodegradable architecture. Pandora's inspiration, Navi homes are grown into trees and cliffs, with no waste, no permanent scars, and full integration with the natural world. Replacement system, myco-architecture, buildings grown from living fungi, mycelium, that are self-healing, biodegradable, fireproof, and carbon-storing. Bamboo and hempcrete, ultra-renewable, carbon-negative materials that are durable and grown rapidly. Algae biopolymers and natural resins, used for flexible, compostable materials and bioplastics. 3D printed soil or regolith structures, using local earth and materials to build regenerative, off-grid shelters. These building methods sequester carbon, regenerate land, and return to the earth at the end of life. Agriculture and food industry. Regenerative, vegan food forest. Pandora's inspiration, all food is gathered without harming animals or ecosystems. Life nourishes life, with no waste and full reciprocity. Replacement system, vegan permaculture and agroforestry, layered forests that produce fruits, nuts, vegetables, seeds, and herbs in synergy. Vertical food forests and aquaponic gardens, integrated into homes, cities, and wild zones. Myco-farming, growing mushrooms for food, medicine, and materials while enriching soil. Seaweed and algae cultivation, producing protein-rich, fast-growing foods without land use or fresh water. Soil-free aeroponics and closed-loop hydroponics, growing plant food in urban or space-based ecosystems with minimal inputs. This system heals land, reduces emissions, eliminates animal suffering, and ensures long-term abundance. Transportation industry. Plant-powered, emission-free mobility. Pandora's inspiration, Navi ride living creatures through the sky and forest, traveling without damaging the environment. Replacement system, electric transportation powered by solar microgrids and biobatteries, e.g., mycelium carbon or algae-based batteries. Personal gliders or drones with solar wings for short-distance travel. Magnetic levitation. Forest railways that hover silently through natural corridors. Biosynthetic lightweight vehicles made from biodegradable plant or fungi-based materials. Mossy footpaths, root bridges, and vine walkways, restoring foot travel through green infrastructure. Transportation becomes silent, efficient, and non-invasive, flowing like a natural element in the biosphere. Manufacturing and industry. Biocircular, local, and nature-based production. Pandora's inspiration, the Navicraft tools, clothing, and homes from local, renewable, and naturally abundant materials without pollution or extraction. Replacement system, biomanufacturing using fungi, algae, bacteria, and plants to grow materials, plastics, leathers, fabrics, packaging. Local fabrication labs, community-based 3D printers that use locally sourced, biodegradable feedstocks, natural dyes, enzymes, and catalysts replacing synthetic, polluting chemicals. Industrial symbiosis, one sector's waste becomes another's raw input, no landfill, no toxins. Nature-inspired manufacturing is closed-loop, distributed, biodegradable, and community-empowering. Chemicals and plastics industry. Green chemistry and biodegradable biomaterials. Pandora's inspiration, no synthetic or toxic materials are present. Everything cycles harmlessly back into nature. Replacement system, green chemistry that designs molecules and reactions with no toxic byproducts. Bioplastics from algae, hemp, cornstarch, or mushroom fibers that naturally degrade in the environment. Living coatings and adhesives made from natural plant resins, gums, and oils. Cleaning products and solvents from fermented plant-based enzymes. This eliminates microplastic pollution, endocrine disruptors, and restores chemical balance to ecosystems. Healthcare and pharmaceuticals. Plant medicine and fungal biopharma. Pandora's inspiration, Medicine comes from the forest. Every plant, animal, and fungus holds healing properties. Replacement system, medicinal forests that produce herbs, roots, fungi, and tree saps for direct healing or pharmaceutical use. Mycopharmacology, using fungi to treat infections, regenerate nerves, and support mental health. Precision plant-based medicine grown in regenerative farms and smart greenhouses. Holistic healthcare rooted in preventative nutrition, natural cycles, and emotional spiritual connection. Healthcare becomes non-invasive, nature-derived, accessible, and deeply regenerative. Retail and consumerism circular, minimalist, nature harmonious culture. Pandora's inspiration. The Navi take only what they need and return what they don't. There is no overconsumption or permanent waste. Replacement system, circular product ecosystems where every item is reused, remade, repaired, or composted. Minimalist design ethos, fewer, better items designed for long use and emotional connection. Shared ownership systems, community cooperatives that reduce overproduction. Tools, appliances, vehicles. Digital local economies using ethical currencies tied to regeneration or ecosystem health. This replaces mass consumerism with gratitude, simplicity, and ecological mindfulness. Education systems, ecological literacy, and biocentric knowledge. Pandora's inspiration. The Navi learn directly from nature, through experience, observation, and elders who carry ecological wisdom. Replacement system, forest schools and outdoor classrooms where children learn biology, ecology, and natural stewardship firsthand. Bioregional education that teaches students how to live sustainably in their own ecosystems. Wisdom-based mentorship combining indigenous knowledge with scientific systems thinking. Decentralized, community-guided learning systems that value emotional intelligence, ecological awareness, and social cooperation. This education fosters deep connection, lifelong care, and ecological responsibility. Science and technology, biointegration, ethics, and regeneration. Pandora's inspiration. Technology is not separate from nature, it is guided by ethics, respect for life, and integration with the biosphere. Replacement system, synthetic biology used to enhance resilience and restore life, not to dominate it. Eco-AI systems that monitor ecosystem health and optimize regeneration without central control. Biointerfaces like plant-touch communication systems, fungi-based data storage, or biosensors grown from living tissue. Distributed ecological computing powered by natural cycles and integrated into ecosystems. Science becomes a tool for healing, rebalancing, and co-evolving with life, not exploiting it. Final vision, a fully regenerative civilization inspired by Pandora in a fully regenerative world modeled after Pandora. Every industry becomes a part of nature's metabolism, circulating, repairing, and regenerating. Humans act as caretakers, gardeners, and co-creators, not extractors. Cities become forests, factories become farms, and work becomes stewardship. Nature, technology, and culture unite, restoring the planet while sustaining life. This transformation is not utopian fantasy, it is a practical blueprint for restoring Earth and building a thriving civilization that can also terraform other planets through living systems. Certainly, to replace every industry in the world with sustainable and regenerative systems inspired by the biodiverse rainforest planet Pandora from Avatar, we must rethink how human societies produce energy, build infrastructure, grow food, transport goods, manufacture products, and govern knowledge and culture. Pandora's ecosystem exemplifies perfect harmony between living beings and their environment, where life continuously supports and regenerates itself. By applying these principles, each industry on Earth can be transformed into a system that nourishes the planet rather than depleting it. Below is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences. Energy industry. The energy industry on Earth currently relies heavily on fossil fuels, which pollute the atmosphere and disrupt ecosystems. Inspired by Pandora's living energy networks, the future energy system must be entirely renewable and integrated with nature. This means using solar power harvested not just by rigid panels, but also by living organisms such as algae or plants that convert sunlight into electricity through biological processes. Wind, geothermal, and hydroelectric systems should be scaled to coexist with ecosystems rather than displace them. Additionally, microbial fuel cells and fungal bioelectric systems could generate clean energy within soils and forests. This decentralized and regenerative energy system would provide clean power without damaging the environment. Construction industry in Pandora, homes and structures grow naturally from trees and rock without harming the environment. Similarly, the construction industry should shift toward living architecture, where buildings are grown from natural materials such as fungal mycelium, bamboo, hempcrete, or algae-based bioplastics. These materials are renewable, biodegradable, and can self-repair, reducing waste and pollution. Construction techniques would prioritize low-impact methods that restore soil and vegetation, integrating buildings seamlessly with the surrounding ecosystem. This shift reduces carbon emissions, sequesters carbon in building materials, and promotes ecosystem health. Agriculture and food production. Pandora's food system is entirely plant-based, with all life existing in balance and no harm caused to animals or plants beyond natural cycles. To emulate this, global agriculture must transition to regenerative, vegan food systems that rely on permaculture, agroforestry, food forests, and aquaponics. These systems produce diverse, nutritious crops while rebuilding soil health, increasing biodiversity, and cycling nutrients naturally. Mushrooms and algae can supplement nutrition and provide raw materials for other industries. Animal farming would be phased out because it is inefficient and ecologically damaging. Food waste would be eliminated by composting and recycling nutrients back into the soil. Transportation. The transportation sector on Earth is one of the largest sources of greenhouse gases and pollution. Drawing inspiration from the Na'vi who travel on living creatures without harming the forest, future transportation must be emission-free and integrated with the environment. This includes solar-powered electric vehicles, bioelectric transport systems powered by living organisms, and transportation corridors designed to preserve wildlife corridors. Walking, biking, and bioengineered pathways such as moss-covered trails and root bridges would replace asphalt roads in many areas. Vehicles would be made from biodegradable materials and designed for longevity and repairability. Manufacturing and industry. Manufacturing today is often linear and wasteful, relying on toxic chemicals and non-renewable resources. Inspired by Pandora's circular, natural production systems, manufacturing must become biocircular, where all materials come from renewable, living sources and return harmlessly to nature at end of life. Fungi, algae, and plants can be used to grow fabrics, plastics, packaging, and construction materials. Local fabrication using 3D printing with biodegradable feedstocks reduces transportation emissions. Waste from one industry becomes the input for another, creating industrial ecosystems that mimic natural nutrient cycles. Synthetic chemicals and toxins would be replaced by green chemistry derived from plant enzymes and natural compounds. Chemicals and plastics. Current chemical and plastic industries create persistent pollutants that damage ecosystems globally. Inspired by Pandora's toxin-free environment, all chemicals must be designed to be non-toxic, biodegradable, and produced through green chemistry processes. Bioplastics derived from algae, hemp, or mushroom fibers would replace petroleum-based plastics. Natural plant resins and oils could serve as adhesives and coatings. This transformation eliminates microplastics and chemical pollution while restoring balance to the soil and water systems. Healthcare and medicine. Pandora's inhabitants derive healing from the forest plants, fungi, and natural compounds, respecting the interconnectedness of health and environment. Earth's healthcare system should embrace plant-based, fungal, and microbial medicines cultivated through regenerative farming. Medicinal forests would produce a diverse array of herbal remedies and bioactive compounds. This natural pharmacy would be combined with holistic and preventive health practices that emphasize nutrition, mental well-being, and community support. Such healthcare systems would reduce reliance on synthetic pharmaceuticals, many of which cause environmental harm. Retail and consumer culture. The Na'vi live simply and take only what they need, returning the rest to the earth. Human societies must cultivate a culture of minimalism, sharing, and circularity to replace mass consumerism. Products should be designed for repair, reuse, and compostability. Shared ownership and cooperative economies can reduce overproduction and waste. Ethical currencies could be tied to ecosystem health or regenerative actions. Digital and local marketplaces would support this shift by connecting producers and consumers in sustainable, transparent ways. Education systems. Education on Pandora is experiential and deeply connected to nature. Similarly, human education must prioritize ecological literacy, systems thinking, and emotional intelligence. Students should learn bioregional knowledge, regenerative practices, and stewardship from a young age. Outdoor and forest schools, combined with mentorship from indigenous and local ecological knowledge holders, can nurture a lifelong connection to the natural world. Education would prepare individuals not only for technical skills, but also for ethical decision-making in harmony with life. Science and technology on Pandora, technology and nature are integrated respectfully, with a focus on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. On Earth, science and technology must be realigned to serve ecological regeneration and ethical stewardship. Synthetic biology can be used to enhance resilience and restore ecosystems without disrupting natural balances. Artificial intelligence and sensor networks can monitor ecosystem health, guiding adaptive management and reducing human impact. Biointerfaces and living sensors could provide new ways for humans to communicate with and learn from nature. This approach ensures that technology is a partner of life, not its master. Every industry on Earth can be transformed by adopting systems inspired by the biodiverse, harmonious, and self-regenerating world of Pandora. This transformation requires a holistic shift from extractive, polluting, and linear production to regenerative, circular, and life-supporting systems. It means designing energy, food, materials, infrastructure, culture, and knowledge to work with nature's cycles, restoring ecosystems, and fostering mutual respect between humans and all living beings. By doing so, humanity can build a thriving civilization that sustains both people and the planet, creating a true Earth Pandora. What kind of economic system can generate a regenerative, biodiverse Pandora-like world depicted in Avatar movie? To generate a regenerative, biodiverse, Pandora-like world as depicted in Avatar, we would need to replace extractive, growth-driven economic systems with an ecological, regenerative economy. This kind of economy prioritizes the health of ecosystems, the well-being of all life, and long-term planetary stability over short-term profits and resource exploitation. Below is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences of the economic system that could create such a world. Regenerative economy based on natural cycles. A Pandora-like economy must mirror nature's closed-loop systems. In this economy, all materials and energy are reused, regenerated, and cycled without waste. Economic activities would enhance the ecosystems they depend on rather than degrade them. For example, farming would enrich soil health, construction would grow forests, and manufacturing would clean air and water. Products and services are designed to be biocompatible, repairable, and compostable, creating abundance without pollution. Bioregional and decentralized economies rather than being centralized and globalized. This economy would be bioregional, rooted in the local ecosystems, climates, and cultures of each region. Communities would rely on local food, materials, and energy sources, reducing transport emissions and increasing resilience. Each bioregion would be managed like a living organism, with people working in partnership with the land to sustain and regenerate it. Wealth would be measured not in monetary accumulation, but in soil fertility, forest cover, biodiversity, clean water, and community well-being. Living wealth and ecological currency instead of using fiat currency that values endless consumption. This economy would use ecological currencies that reward regenerative actions. Currencies could be tied to the restoration of ecosystems, like planting trees, regenerating soil, cleaning water, or increasing biodiversity. Value would come from what supports life, not what exploits it. Living wealth would include clean air, healthy food, functional ecosystems, strong communities, and interspecies harmony. Commons-based and cooperative ownership models would shift from corporate and private control to commons-based and cooperative stewardship. Land, forests, rivers, and ecosystems would be treated as sacred commons, not commodities to buy and sell. Communities would co-manage these commons democratically, with decisions guided by long-term ecological health and the rights of future generations. Enterprises would be cooperatives or social businesses designed to serve ecosystems and people, not shareholders. Permaculture and agroecological foundations. The backbone of the Pandora economy would be regenerative agriculture, permaculture, and agroecology. These systems mimic natural forests and ecosystems to produce food, fiber, and medicine while restoring biodiversity and capturing carbon. Every household, village, and city would have food forests, rain gardens, and compost systems integrated into daily life. These systems create livelihoods, build local economies, and regenerate the biosphere. Circular and biomimetic industries. Industries would be circular, meaning waste from one process becomes input for another. Materials would be sourced from renewable biomass, like hemp, algae, fungi, and bamboo, and processed using biomimicry and green chemistry. Manufacturing would be localized and nature-aligned, using solar power tools and community-scale fabrication. Rather than centralized factories, we'd have distributed biorefineries and living fabrication centers producing biodegradable, regenerative goods. Ecological education and knowledge economy. The economy would center on education, ecological literacy, and skill sharing. People would be trained in earth stewardship, ecological design, plant medicine, natural building, and biofabrication. Knowledge would be open source and freely shared across networks. Value would be created by those who regenerate ecosystems, teach sustainable practices, and restore community relationships. Rights of nature and interdependence law. In this economic system, nature would have legal rights. Forests, rivers, and species would be recognized as living beings with the right to thrive. The economy would be governed by interdependence laws that ensure every decision aligns with the well-being of ecosystems and all forms of life. Economic contracts would require ecological impact assessments and be bound by the precautionary principle, do no harm, low consumption, high-quality living. A Pandora-like economy promotes degrowth of excess and growth of care. People live simply but richly, with access to nutritious food, clean air, beauty, community, and meaning. The focus is not on mass consumption, but on well-being, artistry, and creativity. Economies grow in knowledge, soil health, biodiversity, and joy, not GDP. Interspecies collaboration and technobiology. Just like the Navi live in mutual symbiosis with animals and forests, this economy would work with life forms to co-create prosperity. Biotechnology, AI, and nanotechnology would be used to support natural regeneration, not replace it. Intelligent biosensors, mycelium networks, and living architecture would help steward forests, oceans, and farms in real time. The economic system capable of generating a Pandora-like world would be regenerative, restores life systems, ecocentric, values all life, not just humans, decentralized, empowers local stewardship, commons-based, resources managed for the good of all, culturally and bioregionally rooted, and, based on mutual care between humans and nature. It replaces extraction and exploitation with restoration and reciprocity. It measures success not by profits, but by how well life is thriving. To create a regenerative, biodiverse, Pandora-like world as depicted in Avatar, the economic system must shift from one based on profit, competition, and extraction to one rooted in ecology, reciprocity, and regeneration. This new system must function in harmony with Earth's natural cycles, enhance ecosystems instead of depleting them, and value life in all its forms. Below is a comprehensive explanation in complete sentences of the kind of economic system that can generate such a world. A regenerative economy that mimics nature's cycles. A regenerative economy operates like a forest. Waste from one process becomes nourishment for another. In this system, materials, energy, and nutrients are continuously cycled, and no waste is produced. Every industry, from agriculture to construction, must regenerate ecosystems rather than degrade them. For example, buildings would be constructed from living or biodegradable materials, and agriculture would enrich soil, restore biodiversity, and capture carbon. Economic activity becomes a positive force for ecological restoration. Bioregional and locally rooted economies. This economic system is organized around bioregions, geographic areas defined by natural boundaries such as watersheds, climates, and ecosystems. Each region would produce most of what it needs: food, materials, and energy, based on its local ecology and culture. Trade would still occur, but the goal would be local self-reliance and ecological integrity. Bioregional economies reduce transportation emissions, encourage community stewardship, and increase resilience to global disruptions. Ecological currencies and living wealth. Rather than measuring wealth through GDP or monetary accumulation, this system uses ecological indicators like biodiversity, clean water, healthy soil, and community well-being. Currencies can be linked to actions that regenerate ecosystems, such as planting trees, improving soil, or restoring wetlands. These ecological currencies reward individuals and communities for contributing to planetary health. The true wealth of a society is measured by the health of its ecosystems and the well-being of its people and other species. Commons-based ownership and governance. Land, forests, rivers, oceans, and seas are treated not as commodities, but as commons, shared resources managed collectively by communities for the benefit of current and future generations. This system relies on collective ownership models such as cooperatives, land trusts, and community stewardship councils. Governance is participatory and decentralized, allowing local people to manage resources in ways that reflect the needs of both ecosystems and communities. Permaculture and agroecology as economic foundations. Food production in this economy is based on ecological principles, such as diversity, resilience, and cooperation with nature. Permaculture and agroecology mimic the structure of natural ecosystems, producing abundant food, fiber, and medicine while restoring the land. These systems eliminate the need for synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and fossil fuels. Farms become ecosystems that sequester carbon, attract wildlife, and provide long-term livelihoods. Everyone becomes a steward of the earth. Circular, biomimetic industries. All industries are redesigned to be circular and biomimetic. They imitate nature's patterns. Materials are grown, not mined, using fast-renewing biomass such as fungi, hemp, algae, and bamboo. Products are designed to be reused, repaired, composted, or returned to the earth without harm. Manufacturing processes run on renewable energy and clean water. Factories resemble living systems, with zero waste and minimal ecological footprints. An education and knowledge economy that heals the planet. Education becomes the foundation of the economy, focusing on ecological literacy, regenerative design, natural sciences, traditional knowledge, and systems thinking. People are trained in skills that support earth stewardship, such as ecological restoration, plant medicine, natural building, and biomaterials production. Knowledge is shared freely and openly to empower communities. Education becomes a lifelong process that aligns humanity with the living systems of the planet. Legal rights for nature and governance for interbeing. The economy is built upon legal recognition that nature has rights. Forests, rivers, and species have the right to exist, thrive, and regenerate. Laws prioritize ecological balance over corporate profits. Governance systems are based on interbeing, where decisions are made with respect to all life. Policy, infrastructure, and economic incentives align with the long-term health of the biosphere. Low consumption, high-quality living. The economy does not seek endless growth but aims for well-being within planetary boundaries. People live simply but richly, with access to clean food, fresh air, vibrant communities, and meaningful work. Consumption is thoughtful and minimal. High-quality goods are built to last, repair, and regenerate. Culture values beauty, creativity, connection, and care rather than material accumulation. Technology and service to life. Technology is not abandoned but redesigned to serve life. Renewable energy systems, biomaterials, AI, and biotechnology are used to regenerate ecosystems and increase efficiency without harming nature. Technological progress is measured by how much it enhances biodiversity, supports resilience, and deepens humanity's relationship with the earth. The economic system needed to create a Pandora-like world is ecological, aligned with natural laws and systems, regenerative, restoring and enhancing life everywhere, localized, grounded in the bioregions of Earth, commons-based, managed by communities for the common good, circular, eliminating waste and pollution entirely, caring and cooperative, focused on well-being and relationships, non-exploitative, recognizing the rights and value of all life. This economic model replaces competition, scarcity, and domination with cooperation, abundance, and stewardship. It enables humanity to live not above nature, but within it, as part of a thriving planetary family.